Thank you for joining us today. Today we are here for a virtual webinar on new digital personal data protection law organized by Digital Accounting and Insurance Board of ICAI. And for this we have amongst us Chairman of DAB ICAI, C. Charan Singh Nanda sir, and Vice Chairman of DAB ICAI, C. Devan Nivas Sharma, who is not present, not able to join us for the today's webinar. Now let's take a moment to introduce our guest speakers for the day. Our two speakers for the day are Advocate G.P. Madan sir and Mr. Pranay Singh Chauhan. I welcome you all for this webinar and would like to thank both our speakers for their valuable time, and we hope this webinar would be of great insight to all our participants. So to go ahead and to start with, I would like to request Chairman DAP C. Charanjit Singh Nanda sir, whom we have been idealizing since long. Over to you, sir.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My very dear old friend, C.S.G.P. Madanji, Chief Pranay Singh Chauhan, the moderator of the day, C.S. Sifatpreet Singh, Manish from the technical support, C. Amit Gupta from the committee, and all members who have come here to go home more enlightened. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very nice, well, Christine webinar on new digital personal data protection law. It was the call of the time. We were receiving so many calls. And let me very candidly tell you, I was in the Ministry of Finance, and there the director and joint secretary intended that we have a seminar on this, and therefore this seminar was fortified and created for the benefit of the membership at large. This program has been very nicely crafted, keeping in view the needs. We have a very senior advocate and a company secretary, Shri G.P. Madan, who has a deep insight into the law. He shall speak on key takeaways from Data Protection Act, and his main emphasis would be on how businesses can maintain cyber security in their organization. You would have heard of so many instances where ultimately there have been data losses, there have been hacking, and there have been blackmails also after taking the crucial data and not sharing without money or some valuables. The second speaker, again, Mr. Pranay Singh Chauhan, who comes from Indore. Mr. Chauhan is a regular visitor and faculty to the Digital Accounting and Insurance Board. He is speaking on how businesses or corporates can adapt and enhance data security. His main focus is how businesses can maintain cyber security in their organization, keeping in place all the protocols that have been designated. Ladies and gentlemen, internationally, data security is a question. And now in India, India has become the back office of the entire world. You all are aware that we undertake accounting services, we undertake taxation services for the entire world. And when we do it, we very candidly need a support with respect to the data protection, because that is again a very important and pertinent area. If some data is misused, if some data is not kept in a confidential matter, it could lead certain legal costs on us. So moving in this direction, we thought a full webinar in this regard shall be there. Before I conclude, I would like to tell you that as professionals, we need to have an impetus to perform. We have to have a vision. That vision coincides with the international best practices. I am reminded of a couplet which says, तमाम शहर बसाकर सुकून के लिए गांव ढूंढते हैं. तमाम शहर बसाकर सुकून के लिए गांव ढूंढते हैं. कितने नादान हैं हम, हाथ में कुल्हाड़ी लेकर छांव ढूंढते हैं. We want to sit in shade, but we don't want to spare a tree. We have to have our professional knowledge to the upskill. And in this regard, Institute has taken 3 very good initiatives I would like to tell you. Number 1, we have set up a program. The name of the program is Technology for Non-Technology Professionals. There are certain people who may not be well versed with the technology. In order to bring them to the mainstream, we have a 3-day virtual program, which you can do from the ease of your home or office. Second, You are aware that the Institute on 1st July 2023 promulgated 23 forensic standards, which is first in the globe. Then we received call from so many people that we need guidance on that. And on 1st July 2023, we have released an implementation guide covering each and every standard in detail with examples. And third very important thing, these webinars ultimately culminate in a professional who grows as a performer not only to the stakeholder or to the client, but to the regulator and governments as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, when two very well read concerned speakers there, I would not like to stand between you and them. So over to CS Sifatpreet Singh. I wish all the best to this webinar. I want to tell you that this webinar is being viewed by certain government officials as well, because they are also very keen to enhance their knowledge on the subject. Thanks a lot. Over to Sifatpreet.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So I would like to now introduce our first guest speaker, who is GP Madan, sir. He is currently a managing partner in Madan Law Offices, Advocates and Solicitors. He has been a registered insolvency professional. He is also Vice President, Insolvency Practitioners Bar Association, Chairman, NCLT and IBC Committee, PSD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Joint Secretary General, NCLT Bar Association, Co-Chair of M&A Task Force, Adjunct Faculty, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, worked World Bank, IBB, King Trainer. He has been Chairman of ICSI Northern Region in 2005 for 7 long years. So now I would like to welcome GP Madan, sir, and we would like to hear from you about this topic today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sifatpreet. And it's really my honor to share the virtual dais with my good old friend, Mr. Charanjot Singh Nanda. I'm also happy to have Mr. Pranay Singh Chauhan. And definitely after my talk, I would like to listen to him also, that how organizations, what are the duties and responsibilities and obligations of the organization under this legislation. Welcome all the participants to this webinar on Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. You must be wondering why I have taken time, why I have spoken slowly the name of this particular legislation. Because in the name itself, everything is covered. The title, the name of the legislation is Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. It's a very, very new legislation on protection. Protection of what? Protection of data. Which data? That is in digital format. And whose data? Personal data. So everything is there in the name. May I request some of the, maybe the organizer to please keep your video open. Yeah, absolutely. Because it looks better. Otherwise, it looks like that I'm talking to myself only or to my screen. So as I said, the name suggests that this is a legislation for the protection of the digital personal data, and the mechanism under this legislation has been provided that how to protect this data. Who shall protect this data? Where this data shall be protected? Where this data shall be preserved? Who shall process this data? And what exactly is the meaning of this data which is personal in nature? And what will happen if there is any breach of the provisions of the law? Who shall monitor the compliance of the law? And in case of breach, who can levy penalties under the law? And who shall be held liable if there is any non-compliance? This is what all has been prescribed in this legislation. Why there has been need of this legislation. I tell you, 3-4 days before, when I started reading this law in detail, immediately I got a call from a friend of mine. सर फिर हो गया. मैं क्या हो गया भाई? सर आपका फिर से फेक अकाउंट बन गया फेसबुक के ऊपर. I thought I have started reading this law and I'm getting this call that Facebook fake account ban gaya. I immediately checked it. Yes, there was a fake account, fake Facebook account in my name. And some of my friends already accepted the friend request from this fake account. I fail to understand that why we do not use our due diligence. That if a friend of mine is already a friend of mine, then why should he accept another request to be my friend on Facebook? Immediately, दिमाग की घंटी बजनी चाहिए कि there is something fishy, there is something wrong. If I am already a friend of GP Madan, why should I receive a request from GP Madan for another Facebook account, and why should I accept this request? Immediately, I had my courage and I spoke to some of my friends that please report it. I also reported it. And if you report it, I tell you within minutes, the Facebook X and the account got deleted. This is one of the examples how these cyber crimes are happening. Now, whether with respect when we implement this legislation of data protection legislation, whether we'll be able to overcome all these cyber crimes, all these digital frauds, answer is no. Because this legislation pertains to right of privacy. No doubt to some extent the cyber crimes will be curtailed, but not to all extent the cyber crimes can be abolished. But still, to mitigate these cyber crimes, this is a very, very fine beginning. This is a laudable initiative taken by the government of India. You know, there are a number of data, the personal data, which we share, whether it's on Facebook or on WhatsApp or on various portals. It may be Zomato, it may be Swiggy, it may be Amazon, or it may be on any other portal. They may be selling certain goods, they may be selling certain services. The moment they ask something, we provide our information. The moment they ask us, please provide your location, we do that, we allow it. The moment they ask that please allow us the permission to have access to your contacts, without thinking twice, we provide that access. That why do they need access to all our contacts? Why do they need our entire medical information? Why do they need information about my father, my mother, my wife, my kids? Is it required for that particular objective for which I have been visiting that particular site? But without going into that, we provide everything. We say yes, 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 allow, allow, allow. And then when something happens, we ask our friend that where and how to file a complaint. Keeping all these things in mind, that how this personal information, what type of personal information can be asked for, what type of personal information can be stored, and what can be the usage of this information, how this usage can be deleted, how this information can be deleted, how this information can be erased, and whether keeping this information, do we need any consent of the person whose information is being stored? All that has been provided in this legislation. This legislation, friends, actually is the outcome of 2017 Supreme Court judgment in Puttaswamy case, where the Supreme Court decided that even providing of personal information is a right to privacy and it's a fundamental right, and any breach of this right is actually leads to breach of violation of fundamental right of the individuals. That after this 2017 judgment of Honorable Supreme Court, in 2018, a bill was prepared. And at that point of time, when the bill was prepared, this word personal was, the digital word was missing from there. It was personal data only. Digital was not there, digital was added later on. However, the 2018 bill was withdrawn and another bill was there of 2019. This 2019 bill was referred to Joint Parliamentary Committee, and Joint Parliamentary Committee gave its suggestions. More than 100 recommendations were there. But however, the 2019 bill, when was open to the public for their feedback and suggestion, after that the 2019 bill was also withdrawn. And ultimately it was 2022 bill which has been passed by both the houses of parliament. And on 11th of August 2023, the president has given its assent to this bill, and the bill has now published in the official gazette. But the bill shall be, the provisions of this act shall be implemented from the date of the notification of the provisions of this legislation by the Government of India. And there may be different dates of notification of different provisions of this act. It means entire act may not be notified from one single date. There may be different dates of notification of implementation of different provisions of this act. Till date, this legislation has not been notified. Further, friends, if you remember that in 2013, we had a very large corporate legislation, a new legislation which replaced the old legislation in the corporate sector, that is Companies Act 2013. If you read the definition part of Companies 13, there is one definition is prescribed. The word prescribed has been defined. Now, what is the meaning of the word? What is the definition of the word prescribed? And that says prescribed means as may be prescribed by way of rules by the central government. Now, in Companies Act 2013, there are 470 sections. And out of those 470 sections, at around 400 places, it is written as may be prescribed. And the word prescribed has been defined that as may be prescribed by way of rules by the central government. So prescribed means the government has to come out with the rules to implement that particular section wherever it is written as may be prescribed. And unless the rules are there, that particular section cannot be implemented, cannot be notified. So first of all, we have to have the rules so that the law can be notified and law can be implemented. That is why majority of the provisions of this Companies Act 2013 were notified from 1st of April 2014. And later on, various sections were notified on various different dates. Now, that's not the end of the thing. In 2016, we had another legislation, another robust legislation in India, that is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. In the definition part of that code, two words have been defined. One is prescribed, another is specified. Prescribed means as may be prescribed by way of rules by the central government. So wherever the word as may be prescribed is coming in the code, it means the government has to come out with the rules, and unless the rules are there, that section cannot be implemented. Further, the word specified has also been defined, and specified means as may be specified by way of regulations by Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. It means wherever the word specified is there in the code, IBBI, which is a regulator, which is a board, which is a statutory body under the code, IBBI has to come out with the regulations, and unless the regulations are there, that particular sections cannot be notified, cannot be implemented, because for the purposes of implementation of that section, we need to have regulations. Same is the case here in this Data Protection Act. The word prescribed has been defined, and this word has been used in this entire legislation 26 times. So 26 times the word prescribed has been used. It means unless the rules with respect to the implementation of that particular section are there, that section cannot be notified by the central government. So first of all, we have to wait for the rules, and unless the rules are there, the sections, the provisions of the act cannot be notified. I don't know when the rules will be out. If you ask me personally, the way this legislation has been defined, the way this law has been legislated, according to me, it may take a substantial time for the government to come out with the rules, because before the rules are framed, I'm pretty sure that there will be many suggestions, many observations, and many objections from the stakeholders before the date of implementation is notified, before the rules are notified. And I'm pretty sure that I'm sure that before May 2024, the rules will not be there and this law may not be notified. That's my personal observation. Now I come to some of the key provisions of this legislation. It's very simple legislation, but has been defined, has been legislated in a very technical manner. And I checked with some European legislations also. Some of the provisions of this law have actually been borrowed from the European legislations. Even some of the huge penalties are also have been, to some extent, have been borrowed from there. Sifat, do we have provision for some Q&A also here? Will there be any questions
Yes,
on
sir.
the
Yes,
chat?
sir. We have this after your session. Whatever the questions would be there, I will read out to you.
I said the participants are not here live because I'm not able to see the number of participants who have joined this webinar.
I think Manish would better help in this regard. Sir, sir, ask Manish about this, sir.
Mr.
Whether
Manish,
we
can you
have
hear me? Acha, but they are looking at from YouTube or Facebook, or they are not here on Zoom? Acha, I see. Okay. Okay. Now I'll be sharing my PPT. Do I have sharing rights with me? Thank you. Just a minute. It's not full screen, not so far. It's not full screen. Is it full screen or not? Acha, but I'm not. Anyway, okay. Now, the introduction of this law. though I've given without the PPT, I've given the introduction, that 11 August 2023, this law became a reality. That is India's first ever privacy legislation. And the objective of the law is to safeguard the personal information which is in the digital format or which can be digitized. And the act defines, the personal data. And what is the personal data? Which can directly or indirectly identify an individual. If there is a data, if there is any information which cannot identify an individual, shall not be treated as personal data. There should be direct identification with respect to that information to a particular individual. If an individual cannot be identified with that information, it's not personal information. Now, further it says, the information has to be in digital format or digitized non-digital data. Either the information is digital, something you have provided on online, through email, through app, or you have given something in physical form, in paper format, and that has been digitized, and now that is called a digital information. I've given an example here, and further it says, the act does not cover personal data. It's very important. The third bullet I'm reading it from here. This legislation does not cover personal data processed by individuals for personal or domestic purposes or publicly available data. Suppose a servant comes to me and I take his information. And that's for I want to keep that information with me, that's all. The legislation may not become applicable to me. Further, if I have given some information through public media, you must have seen the hoardings. And if on the hoardings, some name and phone number is given there, anybody may note it from there. So that information is not called a personal information because you have already given your personal information in the social media, in the public media, and then your consent is not required. Anybody may note it, anybody may copy it. This legislation will not be applicable to such information. Now, you have given you are a blogger, or you have given a YouTube channel. In the YouTube channel, आजकल सब लिखते हैं अपना नाम and अपना phone number, and then they say you like it or you share it. Every damn information is given in those videos or in those blogs. This particular legislation, according to me, is not applicable to that personal information which the individual is giving deliberately through his own consent, without any pressure or without any request from anybody. Then what is the basis of this act? We need to understand that why did we require this legislation? The act is based on 7 principles. And what are these 7 principles? The first principle is of consented, lawful, and transparent use of personal data. It means if I'm giving my information, if my information is being used by somebody, first of all, my information, before use of or before storage of that information, my consent is required. Number 2, it can be used only for lawful purposes and only for the desired purposes. Number 3, the transparent use of personal data. There has to be complete transparency and disclosure with the person whose information is there. Second principle, the principle of purpose limitation. This data can be used only for the purpose for which it is being taken. You go to a shoe shop, buy a shoe, that shoe shop takes your information, your name, your mobile number, and you happily give it. They ask for your email ID, you happily give it. Now, this information can be used by that shopkeeper only for the purposes of sale of his own products. He is not supposed to share this information with anybody else, or he is not supposed to use this information tomorrow. Suppose he ventures into any other business. Maybe in that business also this information cannot be used unless my consent is taken. You go to a restaurant, you eat lunch or dinner. After the lunch or dinner, a feedback forms comes to you. Every damn information is asked in that. Your name, your age, your wife's name, your date of birth, your email ID, your anniversary, your kids' details. Sometimes you in which financial bracket you fall, that information is also sought, and you give it happily. आप क्यों देते हैं कि कभी भी मेरा बर्थडे आएगा या मेरी एनिवर्सरी आएगी, मुझे स्कीम मिल जाएगी, मुझे डिस्काउंट मिल जाएगा इस रेस्टोरेंट से, and you provide that information. No problem. After the implementation notification of the legislation, no problem, you give that information. But first of all, before you give that information, please ensure that you give that information only which is desired according to you by that restaurant. Whether you fall in the bracket of 50,000 per month or 5 lakhs per month or 50 lakhs per month, that is immaterial for the restaurant. Don't give that information. If you want to receive some discount schemes, okay, give you your phone number. If you actually want to enjoy your birthday and anniversary in that restaurant, do give these dates. Now, sometimes it is written date of birth. But what do you write? You write date of birth, month of birth, and year of birth also. Why should you give year of birth? The moment you give year of birth, it means you are giving your age also. They are not asking your age. They are asking date of birth. If you're born on, say, 5th of July, simply write 5th July. Why are you writing 5th July 1995? You should not write 1995. That's not desired. Because in the times to come, they are going to give you discount on whenever your birth falls in the month of July or 5th of July. Maybe it was 7 days or 10 days or 15 days before, they'll send you a communication. But why are you giving 1995? Why do you want to tell them that you are 28 years of age? That's not required. Simply they ask for the date of anniversary. Simply provide date of anniversary and not the year of anniversary. नहीं तो ये भी पता लग जाएगा कि आपको कितने साल हो गए आपकी शादी. वो क्या जरूरी आपको बताने से, आपसे पूछा ही नहीं गया तो. And why is that information required? And that person, that entity which is using this information, that entity also can use the information only for the desired purpose. अगर restaurant ने information ली है, the restaurant will have this information, can use this information only for the purposes of lunch, dinner, breakfast only. For no other purpose, this information can be used. So that is the second objective, second principle of this legislation. Third is principle of data minimization, which I just said. The person who is storing this information is supposed to ask for the minimum possible information and not the whole lot of information about you. उसका पर्पस किससे सर्व होता है? About your mobile number and at the most your date of birth and date of anniversary. Nothing more than that is needed. Fourth principle is the principle of data accuracy. You need to ensure that you are providing the accurate information, and person who is storing the information is also supposed to store only the accurate information. That is what one of the principles of this legislation. The next is the principle of storage limitation. Now suppose you are giving a particular information to somebody for a particular period, say 5 years. After 5 years, this information cannot be stored by that entity unless your consent is taken again. So the information, the personal information shall be stored only for a limited period or for the limited objective. Once this objective is achieved, once that period is over, this information cannot be stored. Unless there are certain exceptions also, I'll come to those exceptions. Next is the principle of reasonable security safeguards. The the entity who is using or storing this information has to have reasonable security safeguards so that this information is not leaked, so that the information is not disclosed to somebody, so that there is no breach of these safety standards, there is no breach of these privacy standards. And then last but not the least principle is principle of accountability, which means that if there is any breach of this legislation, then that entity is subject to certain penal actions which have been provided under this law. And these penalties are very, very huge. I'll come to these penalties also. This is the judgment which I was referring to of 2017 judgment, which was passed on a writ petition filed in the year 2012. Here the Supreme Court has affirmed the constitutional right to privacy. And it says, the Supreme Court declared privacy to be an integral component of Part 3 of Constitution of India. And further say that fundamental rights of an individual, and the right to privacy is also a fundamental right, it cannot be given or taken away by law, and all laws and executive action must abide by them. So it means my right to privacy, my right to personal information cannot be taken away by any legislation. No law can say that Mr. Madan's information has to be kept there. No, sorry, without my consent, it cannot be done. That's my right. If I say right, if I use this right, yes, it can be stored. For next 1 year, it can be stored. After 1 year, it cannot be stored. It cannot be stored. And if before 1 year, if I decide that now it cannot be stored further, say after 8 months, I decide no, this information cannot be stored there. It cannot be stored there. Because this is my right, my constitutional right, my fundamental right. Supreme Court has, however, clarified. Now, this is what the exception which is talking about. That like most other fundamental rights, the right to privacy is not an absolute right, and there is certain exception, and it says that subject to satisfaction of certain tests and benchmarks, a person's privacy interest can be overridden by competing state and individual interests. It means if in a particular legislation it is mentioned that for the purposes of safety and security of this society or of the city or of the nation, my information has to be stored there, this will be stored there. Abhi consensus hone wala hai. Abhi census hogi. And census mein recently you must have heard about this, there's a tussle between the judiciary and the government. First of all, government said the census can be conducted by the government only. Then the affidavit, I think, was withdrawn and all that. But if in this census, the government has a right to store my information, there I cannot say that I have a fundamental right to privacy. If in census, my information, my name, my age, my address is to be, and my gender is to be there, has to be there, it has to be there, I cannot say no to that. I just use the word gender. Friends, it's very interesting to note that in this legislation, I think the first legislation which I've seen where the word she has been defined. I have not seen any definition of the word he, H-E, in any of the laws. But here there's a definition of the word she, S-H-E. If you go through any legislation, and the legislation uses the word he, his, him. But this legislation uses the word she, her. This legislation does not use the word he. And she has been defined, and she includes all the genders. The genesis, the definition says she includes all the genders. It means she includes he, and she includes the transgender also. This is what my interpretation, because it says it's gender neutral, and the third gender, the transgenders, have also been now recognized by Honorable Supreme Court. So therefore, all three genders are covered by this legislation. Now I come to some of the definitions. Though they may be technical in nature, but समझने में बहुत simple है. Data principle. Principle. जिसका data है, that individual is data principle. So first of all, we need to understand that this legislation is applicable to personal data of individuals. This does not deal with data of companies, data of trusts, data of association of persons, data of societies, data of any other entity, any partnership fund, any proprietorship firm, any LLP, or any other entity. No, it's not covered. Only personal data of individuals is covered by this legislation. And the data principle means an individual to whom this data belongs. He's a data principle. आप इसे इंडिविजुअल मान के चले, कोई डेटा प्रिंसिपल बड़ा भारी भरकम शब्द लग सकता है, बट एन इंडिविजुअल जिसकी पर्सनल इंफॉर्मेशन है इज अ डेटा प्रिंसिपल. And the definition is, it means the individual to whom the personal data relates. And now there is a carve out provision where such individual is a child. In that case, this child's information cannot be stored unless the consent of the parent or lawful guardian of this child has been obtained. So in this case of a child, the data principle would be a child along with his parent or her. I'll use the word her because the legislation uses the word her. A child along with the parent or lawful guardian is a data principle. Further, there may be an individual who is disabled. Disabled means maybe mentally disabled or any other disability. In that scenario, the data principle would include that person along with that person's lawful guardian. Now you see, they were acting on her behalf. This is what the legal language is, acting on her behalf. So an individual whose information is being dealt with in this legislation is a data principle. That's one. Next is data fiduciary. Data fiduciary is a person. Now this is a person. Now here the person, the word person has also been defined in this law. Person means an individual, a society, a trust, a company, or any other entity, a proprietorship, which is using this data, which is storing this data. Like I gave an example, you go to a shoe shop, you go to a restaurant. So the restaurant is storing your data. This restaurant may be in the name of a company, restaurant may be in the name of a partnership, restaurant may be in the name of an individual, a proprietorship concern, or maybe a society or a trust is running that restaurant. And we have seen there are many societies or trusts, Lijjat Papad and all that. They are societies or they're NGOs. Then NGO may be a person. So all these restaurants or shoe shops, all these portals, the Amazon, Swiggy, Facebook, and all these portals are storing this personal data. Therefore, all these entities are called data fiduciary because they are storing this data. Now, read the definition. Data fiduciary means any person who alone or in conjunction with other person determines the purpose and means of processing of personal data. So they should know for what purpose this data is being stored and shall be used. Now, in addition to data fiduciary, there's another definition is significant data fiduciary. It means where many people visit or number of information of hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people can be stored, those entities will be called significant data fiduciary. And it defines means any data fiduciary. It has to be data fiduciary, but significant क्यों है? or class of data fiduciaries as may be notified by the central government. And central government, how will it notify? By way of rules. तो सिग्निफिकेंट डेटा फिड्यूशरी कौन कहलाएगा आज की डेट में क्लियर नहीं है. बाय वे ऑफ रूल्स इट शैल बी नोटिफाइड दैट विच डेटा फिड्यूशरी विल बी ट्रीटेड एज सिग्निफिकेंट डेटा फिड्यूशरी. बट ये बड़ा क्लियर है दैट लार्ज प्लेयर्स will be called significant data fiduciaries and small players will be in the definition of data fiduciary only. Now comes another definition of data processor. The data processor means any person who processes his personal data on behalf of a data fiduciary. Now this data processor may be an employee of the data fiduciary, or this work may be assigned to some outside party. It may be a third party, it may be outsourced. So whosoever is doing this work of processing of personal data on behalf of data fiduciary is called data processor. देखने में टेक्निकल वर्ड्स हैं, अदरवाइज बड़े सिंपल हैं, और हमारे डे टू डे लाइफ में इन हमारे बिजनेसेस, इन आवर प्रोफेशंस वी यूज दिस टर्म्स और वी यूज हैव दिस सर्विसेज. In our on offices, we get certain information processed from outside. तो जिससे करवाते they are called data processor. For my client, I am data fiduciary और मैं client की information किसी और से process करवा रहा हूँ, the person who is doing this processing is called data processor. And my client, मेरा client कौन है मेरे लिए? Data principal. It's so simple. My individual client is data principal. For my client, I am data fiduciary. और मेरी client की information से process करवा रहा हूँ is called data processor. It's pretty simple. Okay. Some other information, important definitions. Data. What exactly is data? Which is covered in this legislation. And what is the personal data? First of all, let's read this personal data. Or let's read this digital personal data. Third one. Digital personal data means personal data in digital form. So, and what is personal data then? Personal data means any data about an individual who is identifiable by or in relation to such data. If there is some information जिससे कोई individual identify नहीं हो सकता है, that information is not a personal data. It means identification of the individual with that information is mandatory. Then only it will be called a personal data. And what is data? Data means a representation of information, fact, concept, opinion, or instruction, blah, blah. But a very technical definition has been given. But in simple terms, your date of birth, your email ID, your PAN, your Aadhaar, or your driving license, or any other information with which you are, or your election card, with which you are directly identifiable is called a data. And when this data is with respect to individual, क्योंकि PAN तो entities के भी होते हैं, companies के भी होते हैं, that is not personal data. PAN of an individual is a personal data. And when this PAN, if I give a photocopy of my PAN card, this is not digital personal data. The moment that photocopy is digitized by the other person, it's called digital personal data. And that is what is covered in this law. And what is personal data breach? What shall amount to breach? It means any unauthorized processing of personal data or accidental disclosure is also a breach. Acquisition, sharing, use, alteration, destruction, or loss of access to personal data that compromises the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of personal data. All this is called personal data breach. And for personal data breach, there are penal provisions. I'll come to that later. Further, another definition which I was referring to, she. The she has been defined, and she means in relation to an individual includes the reference to such individual irrespective of gender. So it has to be individual irrespective of gender. So let's not read it as male or female only. And according to me, even transgender is also included here. Then there is a concept of consent manager. Friend, this is a very, very unique definition and very, very good professional opportunity also for the professionals. particularly in large organizations. It says consent manager means a person registered with the board. What is a board? I'll come to that. This board is also a statutory body. This consent manager means a person registered with the board. It means who can act as a consent manager with a large organization. First of all, registration with the board is required. Being an insolvency professional, registration with IBBA is required. Being a broker, registration with SEBI is required. Being a underwriter or a manager to the issue or a merchant banker, you need registration with SEBI. Anybody and everybody, okay, even a capital market advisor nowadays are required to get themselves registered with SEBI. So unless this registration is there, nobody can act in that capacity. Similarly here, a person can act as a consent manager. And here it says consent manager means a person. It means consent manager may be an entity also. Consent manager need not be an individual. Consent manager means a person who is registered with the board and acts as a single point to enable a data principal to give, manage, review and withdraw her consent. For all large organizations now will have to, once this law gets notified, they will have to have consent manager who shall be dealing with all their clients for the purposes of processing and storage of this information, as well as also for the purposes of if that data principal wants this information to be withdrawn, it shall be withdrawn. If that data principal wants that information should be modified, किससे contact करना है? Consent manager से. If the data principal wants that information should be deleted, it shall be deleted. It has to be erased, it has to be erased. Or it has to be suspended for a particular period, it has to be suspended. किससे contact करना है? Consent manager से. So this is a major opportunity for the professionals. Yeah. Now, what are the salient features of this legislation? It says that all these fiduciaries, they'll engage with a data processor or process personal data on its behalf through a valid contract only. There has to be contract. First of all, there has to be contract between the individual and the data fiduciary. Contract between the fiduciary and the processor. Secondly, provide a clear, concise and comprehensive notice to data principals. आज की डेट में my information is available with various vendors, with various suppliers, with various portals. But the day this legislation is notified, after that, that particular vendor, that particular service provider, that particular portal will have to give a notice to me that your information is available with us. We are giving a reasonable notice. Please give your consent so that we can process your personal data with us and we can store your personal data with us. We need your consent. Now, how that consent will be given, how this notice will be issued, all that will have to be prescribed by way of rules. But एक चीज उसमें जरूर होने वाली है जो मुझे लगता है rules में, कि if I receive a notice and I do not reply, say the notice says, okay, reply to us within 30 days. I do not reply to the notice within 30 days. Whether it will be presumed that I have given my consent or it will be presumed that I have not given my consent. That will be a big challenge in the times to come, and the government will have to clarify whether after the expiry of the notice period, will it be a deemed consent or will it be a no consent at all. That shall be notified by the government. Third is salient feature, obtain verifiable parental consent before processing children's personal data. We have discussed earlier. Fourth feature is abstain from processing personal data that may cause harm to children or undertake behavioral monitoring of children. Again, this is part of children. So in case of children, extra precautions have been taken. So now, after the notification of this legislation, all the schools and play schools and other training institutions who provide training to these kids and children means it has been defined up to 18 years of age. All these bodies, all these schools, all these institutions who have abundance data with them of thousands and lakhs and crores of kids in the country, they have to store this data. They have to process this data very, very carefully under the guidance or under the written consent of the guardians or the legal heirs of such kids. Not legal heirs, guardians or parents. Sorry. Now, next is to implement technical and organizational measure to ensure effective adherence with the Act. No doubt that's a key. Delete and cause its data processor to erase data as soon as the purpose is accomplished. आपने एक बच्चे का डेटा रखा, बच्चा स्कूल से निकल गया, उसके बाद the minimum possible information for a particular period of time has to be kept. After that, this information has to be deleted. A school is not supposed to keep the information of all its kids for 20 years पहले कौन उसके स्कूल में पढ़ता था. That's not necessary. वो जरूरी है भी तो minimum possible information shall be kept, not the entire information of all this 20 years of that kid shall be kept by the school. Again, we'll have the rules with respect to this. Maybe we have sector specific rules also tomorrow. We have industry specific rules also tomorrow. We have the rules for the industry, we may have rules for the service providers. The government has got all those powers to notify the rules. Next is to report personal data breaches to Data Protection Board under data principles. Now, for the fiduciary, if there is a data breach from the fiduciary and the fiduciary comes to know that there has been a breach, there has been some leakage, the data fiduciary has to immediately to intimate, I use the word immediately because the word timing is yet to be provided. The data fiduciary has to intimate to the Data Protection Board as well as to the data principal कि आपकी information कहीं data breach हो गई है, so we have to take the immediately precautionary measures that how this breach should not be misused. We have to take adequate protection, we have to take adequate steps immediately. And another feature of the act is by using the word she. Actually, in the parliamentary committee, I said that JPC, the matter went to JPC. In the JPC, there were many women members also this time. There are always women members, but this time the women members suggested that this should be a unique legislation where the word he should not be used, and in place of that, word she should be used. Application of the act. The applicability of this covered under Section 3 and said that provisions of this act shall apply to processing of digital personal data within the territory of India. But does it not apply to outside India? It applies to outside India also. I'll come to that. There is exception to this. So the legislation is applicable to processing of digital personal data within India. And what is digital? I've discussed earlier also. If some data is collected in digital form, it's a digital personal data, or non-digital form but digitized lately, subsequently. So that is also covered in this. Further, it says this legislation also applies to processing of digital personal data outside the territory of India, subject to certain exceptions. The government has the power to notify that Indians' personal data cannot be processed in particular countries. Government has got that power to notify the names of the countries where Indians' data cannot be digitized. उन countries में पाकिस्तान तो पक्का ही होने वाला है, आप ये मान के चलें. There may be certain other countries which may not be friendly countries with India, and government may come out with a list. Certain countries not to be included, and certain countries with certain safeguards to be included in the list. Now, this personal data of Indians can be processed outside also, provided then there is a proviso. Only with respect to the activities of offering goods or services to Indians and to be used in India. It means if I'm buying something from a portal or from a vendor outside India, that portal or that vendor which is outside India can use this information only for the purposes of selling the services or offering of goods to me in India, not for any other purpose. The moment this information is used for any other purpose, there will be breach and the huge penalties may be levied on that portal or on that vendor. तो इसके बाद आप अगर Amazon या Flipkart या किसी भी और foreign portal से if you buy something, you be rest assured nothing wrong can happen to you by virtue of that information which you have provided to Amazon. So Amazon can use the services, can use this information only for the purpose of selling goods to me in India. That's all, or nothing, no other purpose. Okay. Then there has to be a transition period. As I said, this legislation has not been notified so far. It may be notified in future once the rules are there. But जिस दिन rules आ जाएंगे या जिस दिन government notify कर देगा क्या उसी दिन से applicable हो जाएगा? Whether all the entities, all these fiduciaries will have to process the data immediately and very next day कोई breach होगी तो will they be held liable? Answer is no. There is a transition period. The government has got the power to notify that within this period, the entities, the fiduciaries will have to process the data and have to have their systems in place, have to have their systems in place for processing, have to have the system in place for storing, have to have the systems in place to ensure that there is no breach, have to have the systems in place to have consent manager, have to have systems in place to handle, to address the grievances of the data principals. Therefore, the adequate time shall be provided to all those. Then the government may notify that this particular industry is exempted or this particular industry is given more time than the time given to other industries. All this authority, all these powers are with the government, and government may notify so that during this transition period, everything is in place. There may be a possibility. Government tomorrow may come out with a notification that the provisions of this act shall be applicable from 1st January 2026 or 2025. So you have 1 year, 4 months with you. In 16 months ke andar you have everything in place so that from 1st January 2025, the provisions of this act can be implemented. So this may be also called a transition period. Then like any other regulator, under this legislation also we have a regulator. And this regulator is called Data Protection Board. This Data Protection Board is a statutory authority. It will be a body corporate. Normally, the head office, whenever it is announced, the head office is announced like in case of IBPI. Why I'm giving an example of IBPI because I'm an insolvency professional also. In case of IBPI, when the legislation came, it was written there, the head office of the regulator, that is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, shall be in the National Capital Region. And then the National Capital Region has been defined. Sometimes it is written that head office of the board shall be in Delhi, or head office of the board shall be in Mumbai, like in SEBI, we have the head office of the board in Mumbai. But here it says the head office of the board shall be maybe anywhere in India, but shall be notified by the central government. So central government shall decide where the head office of the Data Protection Board shall be, but it has been decided that it shall be a body corporate, it shall be a statutory body. Now, what shall be the composition of this board? There shall be chairperson. Who shall appoint the chairperson? Central government. But now, how many members will be there? And who can be members of this board? Central government, by way of notification, maybe by way of rules, will define it. That how many members will be there, what should be their qualification, or what should be their experience, what should be their expertise, how many members will be there, will there be some government nominees, will there be somebody from the public, will there be somebody from this, maybe the state fiduciaries, all that has to be decided. What shall be the tenure of the chairperson, what shall be the tenure of the members, all that shall be decided. Normally, all these things are there in the act, in the main legislation, but surprisingly, this legislation does not have all those details, and everything has been left at the discretion of the government. To me, that's not the right thing. Because if you see every legislation, wherever these board or statutory bodies, statutory authorities have been constituted, the main legislation talks about all this. But in this case, nothing has been prescribed. This legislation is silent on this, and all the powers and authorities have been given to the central government. Now, what is the role and power of this board? The role is of enforcement, to determine non-compliances, to impose penalties, to issue directions. But one good thing is there, if the board is of the view that there is some conflict, there is some dispute between the data fiduciary and data principal. In that scenario, if the board is of the view that this matter can be sent to mediation, in that scenario, with the consent of both the parties, the board shall refer the matter to mediators. Now, here is another role for the professionals. Who can be the mediators? Still not defined, maybe in the rules. But if you have this capability, this capacity of mediate between the two parties, here's an opportunity. And I tell you, there's a huge scope, because there will be thousands and lakhs of disputes between the data fiduciary and data principals. तो आप में से किसी ने अभी कोर्स नहीं किया, there are certain course available for mediators or for alternate dispute resolution. I think ICAI is also conducting certain courses. Please do such course, have some recognition. Tomorrow there may be a panel by this board of mediators. Get yourself a panel. Huge opportunity, I tell you. Or if you want to do social service, by virtue of providing social service also you can become a mediator. Further, once a matter is referred to the board, there's a dispute, both the parties come to the board asks for mediation, both the parties do not agree, the matter should be referred to mediator. Now the board will have to pass an order. At this stage, this board, which is a statutory authority, which is a body corporate, now will act as adjudicating authority. Whether such powers also should be given to a board or not, again, I'm having my own reservations. To certain boards, these powers have been given. IBBI has been given power only with respect to monitor the conduct of insolvency professional, insolvency profile agencies and insolvency information utilities. Only three things. But SEBI has been given vast powers with respect to the brokers, underwriter, merchant banker, which whosoever intermediary is associated, registered or recognized by SEBI. SEBI has the power to be an adjudicating authority. Recently, आप newspaper में आजकल रोज ही आता है, almost पढ़ते ही हैं, with respect to particular two individuals, with respect to a particular media group, where two individuals have been barred from becoming a director on the board of any company. So SEBI passed that order. Appeals have been preferred twice with SAT, लेकिन SAT on appeal को खारिज कर रहा है. No interim relief has been given. Similarly, here the board has been given power to adjudicate such matters. And once this adjudicating order is passed, or there may be an order with respect to imposing penalties against any such order, an appeal may be preferred, and the appellate authority under the law is TDSAT. Now, some of you might be having reservation on dealing with TDSAT, but this is what the law says. Or some of you who are already doing practice before TDSAT, I tell you it's a golden opportunity. Because you will be preferred by the parties to file an appeal because you are already experienced in TDSAT. और अगर नहीं है TDSAT का experience, तो अभी से TD सेट की प्रैक्टिस अगर करना चाहो तो स्टार्ट कर सकते हो, so that tomorrow when this law gets notified you will have ample opportunity of practice, because आपके पास एक्सपीरियंस है TD सेट का। तो बोर्ड जो भी ऑर्डर पास करेगा उनके अगेंस्ट अपील्स आपके पास आने के पूरे चांसेस हैं। Now this appeal can be preferred within a period of, I think I might have missed somewhere, within the period of 30 days from the date of passing of the order. And the board, friends, will be having power of a civil court of asking for the witnesses to be present or providing of evidence. No, I mean, whatever the power the civil court enjoys, this board will enjoy all those powers of the civil court under Civil Procedure Code. The powers of the board have further been given in section 27 of the Act. The board, on receipt of an intimation of personal data breach, कहाँ से आएगी information? The fiduciary may provide or the principal may provide. The board may order an urgent remedial action or mitigation measures in such a scenario, inquiry into such personal data breach, and impose penalties. Now, what is the adjudication process? As I said, the board is having a powers of a civil court, and the law says if the board determines on conclusion of an inquiry, it means there has to be inquiry. Both the parties will be there. Principles of natural justice will be followed. And after hearing both the parties, the board is of the view that there is a breach of the provisions of this act or the rules which may be there in future. And this breach is significant. Then board may, after giving an opportunity of both the parties, impose such monetary penalty specified in the schedule. Surprising, this schedule has been mentioned here. Because I tell you, friends, that these penal provisions cannot be prescribed by way of rules. The penalties, fines have to be part of the main legislation. You always note it that these cannot be prescribed by way of rules or regulations. The main body of the legislation has to prescribe for the penal provisions. And whatever amount shall be collected by the board by virtue of these penalties, it shall be credited to the Consolidated Fund of India. There's going to be another revenue model for the Government of India. Appeal I have already discussed. Appeal can be filed within 60 days from the date of passing of the order by the board. Now, what are the rights of the data principals? Data principal individuals. As individual, मेरे क्या rights हैं? Right to access information. मैंने जिसको भी अपनी information दी है fiduciary के पास, I have a right to access that information. Right to grievance redressal. मुझे कोई problem है उसके साथ, the fiduciary will have a grievance officer. Grievance mechanism shall be there. It may be committee, it may be council. So I have a right to refer my matter to the grievance committee or council. Right to correction and erasure. मुझे अपनी information ठीक करवानी है, I can get it done. Erase करवानी है, I can get it done. Right to nominate. After my death, who shall have right to this information which is stored with somebody else? Even for that purpose, the right of nomination. It means after my death, क्या उस fiduciary के पास पूरा right है to use that information? Answer is no, because my nominee will be there, and if a nominee says after my death, please erase the information of my father, information has to be erased, information has to be deleted. So nominee के पास nominee right of nomination and right of nominees, both are there in this law. Correction and erasure I have already discussed with you. Then grievance redressal mechanism has to be there. For that, the entire the details will be there in the rules. However, the enabling provisions are there in the Act. Then what are the obligations of data fiduciaries and data processors? They have compliance obligations to comply with all the provisions of the law as well as the rules made thereunder. Consent should be obtained. It should be a free consent. It has to be specific consent. It has to be informed consent. It has to be totally unambiguous and followed up with clear affirmative action for a specified purpose. It means now a consent form shall be devised either by way of rules or and liberty shall be given to the data fiduciaries to prescribe a consent form. Friends, is again a opportunity, particularly for the legal professionals or IT professionals, that how this consent form should be designed so that you comply with the law. The next obligation on this data fiduciary and data processor is data handling. How to handle this data? That they have to ensure the accurate and complete processing of data. And again, it says limiting to this specific purpose, not for any other purpose. The data must be erased once the purpose of processing is fulfilled. And for this purpose, the data fiduciaries may engage data processors under only valid contracts, so that tomorrow the data processor, if runs away, it will be the data processor will be treated as agent of the data fiduciary, and data fiduciary may be held liable for any breach on the part of data processor. Now, who is a significant data fiduciary? As I said, on the basis of the value, volume, and sensitivity, the government may, by way of rules, may notify later on that who shall be called a significant data fiduciary. Now, what are the obligations of significant data fiduciaries? क्योंकि आप एक शॉपकीपर से, एक सोल प्रोप्राइटर से you cannot expect much, and one should not. But if it's a large entity, large vendor, large service provider, large app, they have to have what? A data protection officer based in India, cannot be based outside India. So data protection officer has to be appointed, maybe data protection officers. Appoint an independent data auditor for evaluating compliance. Major role now for professionals, because you have to conduct this, or you can become now an independent data auditor, and you must know what are the compliances and how to comply with the law. That's another major role. And then further obligation is to conduct data protection impact assessment. That is also going to be mandatory now. And it's good also, I tell you, that by virtue of this data processing, what has been the impact on the organization? What has been the impact on the principals? What has been the impact on the market? What has been the impact on the industry? And actually, what has been the impact on the country as a whole? What has been the impact on the fiduciaries? Because now they'll be providing a feedback. They'll feel safe. They'll feel secured. And wherever you feel safe and feel secured, certainly you would like to have your commercial transaction with those entities where you have a feeling that my data is absolutely secured there and there is no possibility of any breach there. So this is the data impact assessment shall be done by the significant data fiduciaries, SDF in short. And then there shall be periodic audits also. Now, these audits may be conducted by outsiders. Again, the provision shall be there in the rules to be notified by the government. Transfer of personal data outside India. Again, I said in the beginning, it is possible only subject to the condition that it is being used from there for the purposes of selling of goods or providing of services to the fiduciaries who are in India. Now, penalties for non-compliance, friends. Very, very major penalties. And penalties are ranging for minor offenses up to 50 crores and for major offenses up to 250 crores. These penalties are too high, and maybe some institutions or some entities or some businesses, I tell you, may go bankrupt because of these penalties. Because no doubt this is the upper limit, but still the upper limit is too high a limit. And because of these high limits, up to 50 crores, up to 200 crores, or up to 250 crores, according to me, such high penalties may lead to corruption. So this care has to be taken. I think there should be different slabs of penalties and not this one slab of up to 50 CR, up to 200 CR, up to 250 CR. Because on the one hand, we are talking about decriminalization of offenses. And on the other hand, we are coming out with such a legislation which provide too high penalties. This is my personal view, friend. You provide for 200 crore, you provide for 250 crore, you provide for 500 crores, but depending upon the size of the entity. So they should be different slabs. The penalties may be turnover based, penalties may be profit based, or penalty may be on the basis of the capital or number of employees and number of offices. There has to be different slabs. If my financial position, if my worth is only 10 crores and is amount up to penalty up to 50 crores can be imposed, and that's not fine. Anyway, again, we have to see the rules. There may be some rules, or as I said, after receiving the feedback and suggestions from the stakeholders, the government may amend this legislation also, or may government amend it once this act gets notified. Because if you see the Companies Act, how many times it has been notified since 2013? Number of times. And for last 3-4 years, we have seen that more than 65 sections of Companies Act have been decriminalized. The word fine has been deleted. Word imprisonment has been deleted, has been replaced with the word penalty. And penalties are also now minuscule in comparison to fine which was there earlier. Now, there are certain irregularities and ambiguities in the Act, though I have notified certain irregularities and ambiguities, but I would not to highlight right now. Reason being, first of all, the law has been notified, and number two, the rules are yet to come. It may be possibility that all these irregularities and ambiguities are taken care of by the government when the government comes up with the rules. And certainly being, as I said, there are a number of professional opportunities which I discussed while dealing with this entire legislation, wherever the opportunities are there, maybe for legal professionals, maybe for chartered accountants, maybe for company secretaries, maybe for IT professionals. Lot of opportunities are there. At every step, there are opportunities for the professionals. And well, we need to have now expertise. But before that, we need to have the advocacy of the provisions of this legislation. And I tell you, merely legislating something, merely codifying something is not going to bring the desired changes. We need to have our mindset. We need to change our mindset. We here means the fiduciaries. We here does not mean principals. The fiduciaries have to change their mindset. They have to inculcate a feeling. They have to have advocacy of the provisions of the code. They have to have the orientation programs for their employees, that whatever information we have, whatever personal information we have, we should have this, use this information only for the purposes of our organization, of our entity, for our business. We are not supposed to disclose it. We are supposed to ensure that there should not be any breach of this, and we should ensure कि इस इंफॉर्मेशन की वजह से अपने क्लाइंट्स को बार बार तंग नहीं करें. जैसे सुबह से शाम तक फोन आते हैं ना, आपके पास कार है, कार बेचनी है, आपको लोन चाहिए, आपको लोन प्रोवाइड कर देंगे, आपको पर्सनल लोन चाहिए एंड व्हाट नॉट, आपको इंश्योरेंस, आपका मेडिक्लेम, आपकी मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस, व्हाट नॉट. सुबह से शाम तक वी कीप ऑन रिसीविंग द कॉल्स. वंस दिस लॉ गेट्स इम्प्लीमेंटेड, आई एम प्रीटी श्योर आपको डीएनडी करवाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी आपके टेलीफोन प्रोवाइडर के पास. ये कॉल्स अपने आप ही कम हो जाएंगी एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू मी ये कॉल्स खत्म हो जानी चाहिए, बिकॉज आपकी कंसेंट के बिना आपकी पर्सनल इंफॉर्मेशन कोई भी यूज नहीं कर सकता, कोई भी यूज नहीं कर पाएगा. एंड दैट इज व्हाट द लॉडेबल ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ दिस लेजिस्लेशन इज. Thank you very much, friends. Now, if you have any question, please ask the question. But like you, I'm also new to this legislation because legislation came only last month on the 11th of August. But still, I'll try my level best to respond to any of the questions or queries raised by you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, GP Madan sir, for your valuable time and for your knowledge, for sharing your knowledge about this recent law. So let me check if there is any question. Um, as of now, there is no such question seeing on the screen. So, sir, I will tell you if there will be any question for this. Now, we have our second guest speaker for the today's topic, Mr. Pranay Singh Chauhan, who would be adding knowledge to us on the topic how business and corporates can adopt and enhance data security. So before that, I want to introduce him. Mr. Pranay Singh Chauhan, he's done his B in IT, ME IT with specialization in information security, and currently pursuing PhD in cloud security. He has finished Master of Engineering with distinction in Information Technology with specialization in Information Security from IIT. He is a certified Network Security Associate NSC1 and NSC2, certified CNSS Network Security Associate ICSI, completed course in risk management and incident response, and he is currently working with the institutes on financial frauds, system audits, cyber security, blockchain. So, sir, we welcome you on behalf of DEF, and I'm sure all the participants are enjoying and would enjoy the next 1.5 hour too. Thank you, sir, and it's all over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. First of all, let me thanks to the DAP also for inviting me and giving this wonderful opportunity here. So, good evening, one and all. And once again, thank you to all you for spending a time with us. So, I hope you all are doing well. And once again, thank you also, Madan sir, for giving this brief on this Data Protection Act. Sir, even I have learned lots of things from this particular session, sir. So, thank you, sir, from my bottom of my heart. So now let me start with my content. So please, sir, give me this access to share my PPT. Yeah. So is it visible, sir?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. So let me start with first of all the disclaimer, because this document is only for the awareness and only for educational and research purpose. Because for next 90 minutes, I'm going to take the name of multiple government agencies, multiple companies, we can say big fours and all, we can say the kind of corporate sector. So neither the author of this material means me nor anyone else in any way is liable for the actions. And we have taken the content from multiple research paper, from various government reports, from various blogs, from various websites, and we can say all the content shown here are just, we can say, the compilation which has been done by various authors and the organization. So basically, this is my agenda which I am going to cover in next 90 minutes. First of all, we'll discuss about the need of topic, that why we should go for this topic, why we need this topic. Then I will cover about the sources of the cyber threats, because right now so many threats are there. We can say the data breach is the most common one, the malicious code, malware, ransomware. There are so many kind of, we can say, the threats are there. So the main sources from where they are coming. So I will discuss about these sources also, and then I will jump into the best practices and tactics which can be followed by the companies and by the corporates, because so many in a kind of tactics are there. So a company can follow all these tactics, we can say these procedures, these policies, and they can avoid this kind of cyber threats. And at last, I will also cover about the benefits to the corporates, that what benefit they can get after, we can say, implementing all these controls and all these policies. So let me start with the need of topic first, that why we need this topic. So please check this wagon wheel. It's a wagon wheel of internet per minute, or I will say a wagon wheel of internet per 60 seconds. That what happened in internet in just every, we can say, kind of 60 seconds. So more than 18 million, we can say, text messages are being sent globally. Means in just a 60 seconds, more than 18 million SMS are being sent globally. On YouTube, more than 4.3 million videos are being viewed. We can say on App Store, so many apps are being downloaded, and on Instagram, on Twitter, on Snapchat, on Netflix, on Google. Means we can say lots of things happen in just a 60 second. And we can say our, in short, we can say that our dependency on the internet is increasing day by day. And today also we are having this webinar using the Zoom platform. So we all are using the technology itself for, we can say, for this kind of knowledge sharing platform. So our dependency on the internet is increasing, we can say, day by day, or we can say minute by minute. So as our role is increasing, we can say the cyber crime, the cyber frauds, we can say the cyber threats are also increasing. You can just check any leading newspaper. You will find these are some common news daily in all the leading newspaper. So many, you can say, about data breach are there, and you can say majorly all the major vendors, they do suffer from this kind of data breach. So we can say the cyber threats are also increasing minute per minute. As our dependency is increasing, so cyber threats are also increasing minute per minute. And basically some facts and stats are also there. Especially after this COVID era, you will find that cyber crimes are, we can say, increasing. You can say they are increased more than 300%. In just, you can say, every 39 seconds you will find a cyber attack is happening globally. In just 39 seconds you will find a cyber fraud, or we can say cyber theft, or we can say kind of data breach or malware, ransomware. They are striking the IT ecosystem. And majorly what they are doing, they are mainly targeting the small businesses. And 95% of data breach records are being coming from these three industries, in which finance industry, we can say, is on number one. Although these states get change regularly, but you will find majorly what they are doing, they are targeting mainly the financial services, because we know that money is involved. So what they are doing, they are targeting mainly the financial services. And then comes the service industry or the consulting businesses, because nowadays you can say this is also very big industry, so they are also targeting the service and consulting businesses. Then comes the healthcare sector. Last year we have seen the example of the Delhi AIMS. We all know that the ransomware has struck the Delhi AIMS system, and the hacker has demanded more than 200 crore. हैकर ने डिमांड किया था 200 करोड़ रुपए दिल्ली एम्स सिस्टम को पूरा उसने विक्टिमाइज किया था उस रैंसमवेयर थ्रेट से, and the entire ecosystem was being disturbed by the ransomware attack. So this is a few example we can say, and you will find, just check any leading newspaper, you will find these are common news. And what they are doing, they are targeting basically all this kind of, we can say, the tech based ecosystem, because nowadays we all are using the technology, all the businesses, all the corporates, even we can say also individuals, we are using the technology. Now, so can we say that crime a business, or can we say is hacking a business, or can we say that committing a fraud is a business? So yes, we can say it's a very big business. There are so many forums are there, there are so many, we can say, kind of websites are there where you can also rent a hacker. Just pay, you can say, few amount of bucks, just pay few amount of money. Either they are dealing with the Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency, or they are dealing with this Monero, a cryptocurrency, and sometimes they also deal in this USD also. Just pay, we can say, a few amount of money, and they are going to do whatever you want. They can destroy the entire company, we can say, just by getting few amount of money also. They can get you all the information from the server also. They can get you all the information from the company servers, we can say, from the data sets, from the database, whatever they want. In fact, they can also damage your reputation on the social media also. I've seen few examples where the hackers are, we can say, they are claiming that they can also damage your social media profile on, we can say, this kind of social media ecosystem. Because nowadays every company has a presence on the social media, and they all are using the social media also for the promoting their products, or we can say their offerings or their services. So yes, hackers are also dealing, we can say, in this kind of business, and they are also doing and committing all this kind of frauds, all these types of crimes, by just getting, we can say, by just offering by in terms of Bitcoin, or we can say any type of cryptocurrencies, or we can say also in this USD. So yes, we can say the fraud or a crime is a big business. So now The questions comes that what are the sources of this kind of cyber threats? Means you can say the sources from this kind of threats are being coming. So basically, mainly we can say they are the few verticals from, we can say these are the main sources of this kind of cyber security threats. Mainly we can say in case of nation, when we come to the nation, we can say the nation states are also there. Some we have seen many examples that so many countries, they are also hiring this kind of hackers. So what they are doing, they are damaging the country's economy also. There are so many cases, we can say examples of North Korea and in fact also from China, that so many APT attackers are there, and what they are doing, they are targeting, we can say, the kind of country based ecosystem. Means they are damaging the, we can say, the reputations of the countries, and we can say they are striking with this ransomware and also the malware attacks. And in fact so many groups are also there, and such groups are known as APT attacks. They are known as advanced persistent threat attacks. So and they do specific target the company also. Means some groups, this hacking groups, what they are doing, they are targeting basically finance sector, they are targeting chemical sector, they are targeting healthcare sector. So this kind of things are also there, we can say, in this kind of ecosystems. In fact we can say so many types of groups are also there, where they are dealing with this kind of data, and they are working from behalf of the country or from behalf of the nations. And now coming on the part of the corporates. So yes, corporate spies are also there. Now just pay a fixed amount of money to any criminal, we can say to any hacker, so they can, we can say, get all your credential informations from the company itself. They are going to get all the trade secrets, all your business secrets, all your business deals, all your business client information about your clients, we can say their data. Just pay, we can say, a few amount of money, and this kind of spies are available, and they can get you whatever you want. So yes, we can say this is a dark side of the technology. It's a dark part of the technology. So things are happening, we can say, in the same IT ecosystem where we are using this kind of technologies. And in fact I have seen so many examples where this kind of criminals and hackers, they are leaking the data in the multiple data breach forum, because there are so many, we can say, strict laws are also there in, we can say, cross border countries, especially in case of Europe. In Europe they have this GDPR, general data protection regulations, where the penalty is more than 4% of the total global revenue. US is having this CCPA. So all these countries, they do have this kind of laws and regulations. So that's why nowadays this kind of corporate spies, they are trying to damage the company, or they are trying to damage the corporates or the business entities. And the most important are the malicious insiders. हम कई सालों से देखते आए हैं, हम सुनते आए हैं कि घर का भेदी लंका ढाए. It's a Vibhishan. Yes, so in case of, we can say, this kind of system is also there, and so many frauds are also there in India, where this kind of Vibhishans, what they are doing, they are leaking the company secrets. Employees are going to play the important role. Insiders, we can say, these are the insiders are there. So what they do, they leaks the company secrets, they leak the company data, and they also, we can say, breach the company data on the public forums. Just by getting few amount of money, we can say they just compromise their ethics also. So we can say there are multiple sources from where all these cyber threats are been coming, and they are damaging the companies, the businesses very badly. And now we can say we are having this act also, which is, we can say, very going to soon very implemented also. So that's why now the companies, they need a kind of a secure ecosystem where this data can be well protected, because the fines are there, the penalties are there. So now the companies, what they can do, they can maintain a proper kind of cyber security ecosystem. I will say I will start with the data breach first. I am going to demonstrate you also about the data breach, that the major consequences of this data breach, because the data breach is the biggest root cause for all the cyber attacks. So as also said by the Vedant sir in last session, that he also received this kind of message also on the social media. Why? Because it might be possible, sir, that your data can also be breached in this kind of breach forums. So now because the cost of preventing a data breach, we can say, is very less in compared to the, we can say, cost of a data breach. So now what companies can do, now what businesses can do, what corporates can do, they can prevent this kind of system, they can prevent this kind of data breach system. because we can say the cost is very less for preventing. And we can say after data breach, we can say they do suffer a lot because of this data breach. So let me show you the kind of a tool also for this simulation. So if you want, you can also open the same tool, and you can, if you want to check your data also, not only for your personal data, you may also check your corporate data on the same tool. Clear? So let me post this particular tool into this forum, our chat. So sir, if you want, you can also share with these participants. I don't know either they are getting this kind of tool or not. So please share this tool with the also with participants, so that they can also check this kind of data breach of the company or the business data. So good tool is there. So we can say on this tool, what you can do, you can just check about your company email ID, or if you want to check about your company name, just write the company name there or write the mail ID there. So now let me just show you the live solution for my personal data. So my email ID is pranay.it@gmail.com. So what I will do, I'll just write my email ID in this one, and then I will search for it. So you can see now, right now you can see that my personal details are being available in all these forums. You can see there, these all are the files which are available there, where this kind of data has been uploaded, or we can say this kind of data is available. You can see there the first file, we can say it's all about from the 17th of June 2023. This one you can see there. So my data got breached from this email ID on this particular date. And you can see also the second link there is there, and it's from Paytm. So you all know the Paytm. So you can see the Paytm has also suffered this kind of massive data breach, and the data was uploaded on this portal on this 18th of November 2022. Means the breach was done was there from Paytm. Means whatever data Paytm is having, some kind of data was leaked from the Paytm also, and that data was uploaded on this forum. So let me show you that also. So just click on this hyperlink, and now we can just verify it. So you can see there, all the email IDs are also there. In fact, the phone numbers are also there, and multiple data is there. Although right now I'm not a licensed user for this tool, because this tool also required a kind of license fees. So I'm just showing you for your demonstration. So I'm not having a license version. So if you're having license version, you can check all the email IDs which were breached from this kind of forums. And not only your email IDs, you can get multiple data from the multiple sources. So now we all know that we all are using, we can say, the email ID is the primary source, because if you're using a technology, we all are having email IDs. We are using email ID for, we can say, Play Store, App Store, and whatever app we download, whatever software we use, we require the email IDs. So you can think for it, that email ID is also being leaked from this kind of sources. And not for individuals also, it is also for the companies and corporates. I have seen multiple examples where all the companies, all the big corporates, their data also got leaked, and you can say pasted on this kind of tools and forum. It's only single tool I'm going to demonstrate you. Otherwise, there are so many tools are also there where we can see that this kind of data is been available. And sir and ma'am, trust me, sometimes this data is also being misused by the criminals also. So now we can see that how important, we can say, this kind of act is there, because our database is already been leaked. You can just check your data also, you will find that how, we can say, important we require this kind of tactics, we require this kind of laws, we require this kind of we can say the regulations, because this data, we can say, is leaked. And now because this data breach, we can say, is there, and now the data is there in open market, it might be possible that the criminals, the attackers, or the hackers, they also have this data. So now let's assume that your data has been breached, and the criminals, attackers, hackers, they are also having this data. So now what they can do? So what they can do, they can drop emails on behalf of your company. So if your company data got breached, what we can say these criminals can do, they can drop an email on behalf of your company. We can say they can do any kind of method on behalf of email, because email is the most primary, we can say, kind of source of internet where we share all the information there. It's the primary source, we can say, where we use all email for sharing all this data also. Sometimes we do also share our corporate data, our personal data also on the email itself. So now this, we can say, this particular thing can also be misused by the criminals also. So now what they can do, they can contact your clients also. In fact, they can also contact your employees also. Means what they can do, they can drop an email from behalf of company CTO, from behalf of company's director, CFO, or whatever they want. They just can draft or compose a mail, and they can drop on your, we can say, concern to your client or concern employee also. Because your data is available, they can do whatever they want, and they can gain the trust also. And Saran ma'am, trust me, we all know that the phishing attacks are the most commonly used attacks in India, where a person, we can say, use this email as a system primary source for committing this kind of crime. So we can say they can also demand some kind of payment also. So many examples are there where what they do, they is to compromise your account on social media, and what they do, they is to raise some payment also. Let's say example of Facebook or WhatsApp. आपका अकाउंट हैक किया फेसबुक का, अकाउंट हैक हुआ व्हाट्सएप का, एंड नाउ व्हाट दे विल डू, दे विल कॉन्टेक्ट योर फ्रेंड्स कि आई एम इन ट्रबल, प्लीज पे दिस काइंड ऑफ मनी ऑन दिस अकाउंट. So we can say not only for corporates, they can also commit this kind of frauds or crime as an individual also. And in fact, they can also create a social media account on behalf of company. Sir and ma'am, especially nowadays on Telegram. The Telegram is also, we can say, a kind of source where all these kind of things are being performed. बहुत सारे channels आपको मिलेंगे on Telegram also, where what they are doing, they are just, we can say, creating kind of account on social media on behalf of company, and then they are sharing all this data on this platform also. So in short, they can do whatever they want, because we are in 2023 when, and this ecosystem where data is a new oil. हम 2023 में हैं जहां पर data is a new oil, a data is a new commodity, a data is new gold. That's why we can say we also required this kind of act also in India, because sir and ma'am, we all are being sold on the multiple channels, on the multiple platforms. Trust me, although right now this session is only for 90 minutes and I do have kind of a time constraint with me, otherwise there are multiple forums you can see that how your databases are also being sold at a very cheaper price. And this criminals, what they are doing, they are not only damaging, we can say, your personal, we can say, identity, they are also damaging the companies, the corporates reputations also. A single negative tweet or single, we can say, kind of negative comment can damage the company profile also on the social media. So we can say in short that the criminals, or we can say this kind of fraudster, they can manipulate all this kind of data on the social media if your data, you can say, is there in a kind of data breach. So that's why we need to prevent also our, we can say, data against this kind of data breach. So now the main questions come that how the businesses, how these companies, how the organizations can maintain the cyber security, how they can, we can say, maintain a kind of complete cyber security ecosystem. So basically we can say mainly we can say in global standards, if we talk about the global standards, we can say there are multiple types of, we can say, standard there. So the most common is about ISO 27001. So now what your company can do, what you can do for your company, because as a CA professionals, or we can say as a professional, what you can do. So as a, what you can do, you can just check about this ISO 27001. It's a good standard that how the companies can maintain the cyber security in their premises. So basically ISO 27001 is a common framework which can be used for all the kind of compliances and all the kind of, we can say, frameworks, because it cover mainly all the aspects of the cyber security. So if you want, you can go for this ISO 27001. Moving next is all about the PCI DSS. Now this PCI DSS, basically it mainly applies for the payment card industry, the industries which are mainly dealing with the payment card data. Means we can say the industries which are mainly dealing with the financial data, the payment card data. So if any company, or we can say if any business, if they are, we can say, processing, or if they are capturing, or we can say if they are storing any kind of, we can say, this data for the primary account number, or we can say about any cardholder name, they should be this PCI DSS compliance ready. because PCI DSS mainly applies for the payment card industry. So just go on Google and write about this PCI DSS standard. You will find a complete, we can say, format is there. A complete, we can say, kind of a draft is there. We will find how to maintain the security for this PCI DSS, we can say, compliance. Same applies for this HIPAA also. Now basically HIPAA is for the healthcare sector. So if you are dealing with any client, those who are from the healthcare, we can say, sector, or if you are dealing with any type of client which are from the healthcare domain, means any companies, or we can say any sector, those are from the healthcare domain. So you may check this HIPAA compliance also. Then comes this GDPR and FINRA, which are the, we can say, also common standard which can be used for the this kind of standard implementations. Next is all about the NIST framework 2.0. So this one only we can say on 8th of August, this NIST has also released we can say kind of a draft, and we can say it's a good draft. If you want to check this draft, you may just go on Google and write this NIST framework 2.0 draft, and you will find the complete process is there, that how we can say industry can implement a framework into their organization. And we can say it's also, we can say, free of charge. Just go on Google and write this NIST framework 2.0, we can say framework for any company or corporate. So you can see all the kind of things are there, and all the steps are there which can be used for implementing this kind of draft. So we can say these are the common, we can say, global standard which are there, we can say, in this security industry, and which are most commonly. So these are the common standards which are there for doing all this kind of work. And not only, we can say, from the global, also in India also, the SEBI has also issued some guidelines, and in fact IIDA also issued some guidelines for this kind of cyber safety framework. So just go on Google and write about the SEBI guidelines for the cyber security. You will find a complete draft document is also there. Just go on Google and write this IIDA guidelines for the cyber security. You will find all these things are available. Just go and pick the draft there. Just check all the measures, whatever they are want, which policies they are trying to implement, and what steps they are trying to, we can say in this kind of draft. So just refer all these documents. You will find multiple data is available, and we can say for them we don't require to pay any kind of charge also. So now what you can do as a professional, you can approach to your clients. You can approach, we can say, to your clients, to your business firms, or in fact you can also implement the same thing also into your office also for the clients, also the businesses. Plus you can also implement the same controls also in your organizations, because it might be possible the criminals or attackers can also target to our IT system also. So we can implement all these kind of frameworks, these guidelines into our offices also. And not only from this SEBI, we can say this IIDI, the RBI has also issued certain guidelines for this kind of framework, where all the things are properly being maintained, that what we can do, we can say, to maintain this kind of cyber security ecosystem. So guidelines are also given by the RBI for, we can say, control and all the policies, how we can maintain this system into our premise also. Similarly, we can say now the moving on the main part about the pillars. So how to, we can say, maintain this kind of system. So there are many three main pillars are there. The first is all about the people, the process, and the technology. Usually it is known as PPT model. So Saran ma'am, these are mainly three pillars for, we can say, implementing a cyber security. What we can do, we can just check this PPT model. Now people stand for the, we can say, your employees. People are the employees. We can say all your managements also, your board members also. Means the, we can say, the persons, those who are interacting with the IT ecosystem, they will become under this people category. So for them, they require the training and awareness, because the cyber industry, we can say, is the emerging industry, and we can say it's a process. So what we can do, just train them, we can say, on this kind of cyber fraud, cyber threats which are there. So we can say train them on the kind of cyber hygiene practices, that what to share, what not to share, when to share, what to download. Means just try to, we can say train on this kind of cyber practices, that how to maintain this kind of cyber hygiene into your businesses or into your company also. Then comes the process. So in process, what we can do, we may just check all the standard there. We just in the last slide now, this PCI DSS, this ISO 27001, this HIPAA. Just check all, we can say, a kind of standard which mainly applies to your company. and just try to implement all the policies into your that company or into your that also your business also. And because it also required the audits, so now what you can do, you can also conduct some kind of audits for this companies also. And in fact our ICI also has a course known as DISA, and might also I think you all know about the DISA also. So now what you can do, you can be this DISA certified, and then you can go for the kind of audits also. You may conduct the audit for all these businesses and for all these kind of companies also. Means just check all the system there, what system they are having, what kind of we can say tactics they are using. So what we can do as an auditor, we can check all the kind of policies and controls which are there in the industry also. So the people and the process, then comes the technology. Because the technology is also going to play important role, we require to implement all the tech based ecosystem also. We require this firewall, we require this antivirus system, we require this software testing also, we require this pen testing also, means testing a network on a certain time also. We require to operate softwares also. So depending upon, we can say that your client information, we can say the client data, what they are processing, the kind of business they are having, what you can do, you can suggest about this kind of technology also. So we can say people, process, and technology, we can say these are three main pillars for the complete kind of tech in the for the industries who are dealing with the this kind of cyber system. So the people, process, and technology, PPT, we can say is a model which is required to maintain in all the companies, in all the businesses, and also in all the corporates. And with the help of this PPT model, the companies can prevent against such kind of cyber frauds, such kind of cyber threats, and they can avoid this kind of data leakage also. So just try to implement this people, process, and technology into any businesses, or we can say into any company or into any corporates, and then you can maintain the safety also in any organizations. Moving next. Now I will show you the step by steps that how we can implement this ecosystem, because we all know that this PPT is there and model is there, but now the question comes how to implement this one. Means how we can implement this kind of system for any businesses or for any company or the organizations. So now our first step, first of all, identify all the assets which are there in the company. The first step is what? To identify all the critical assets in any organizations. Because sir and ma'am, what we are going to do, we are going to protect the company, we are going to protect any businesses, we are going to protect any, we can say, kind of a corporate ecosystem. So what is required? We require to know about the assets first. Now what is this asset? Means which generates some kind of value to any organizations. It can be your process, it can be, we can say, your machines, it can be your laptops, it can be your desktops, it can be your networks, it can be your server. So just try to gather all these informations, try to collect all this data, and this also includes about your customer data. As you can say in our last session, sir told them that about this financial data, all this data is required to protect it. So yes, in this also we required to, we can say, collect all this data about the customer, about the financial information, and also about the IPRs if they are having, or any other relevant data. So first step is what? To identify, and we can say to identify all the assets which you are having into your organizations. So let me give you a sample also, example of sample also. Yeah, you may check this one. So basically I have prepared this sample for one of my client, you can see there. So in this manner, what you can do, you can prepare an Excel sheet for any kind of company or any kind of businesses or any corporates. So what you can do, you must just prepare this kind of sheet where you can write all the, we can say, asset numbers, means serial number, then just mention about the asset ID. Now what is your assets? It can be your laptops, it can be your desktops, also your mobile phones are your assets, your router devices, your Wi-Fi devices, sorry, including your tele softwares, your license applications, means whatever you can say your assets you are having, just write all the asset names there, and then write, we can say, about the, we can say, the vendor name, about description of the assets also. Means let's say you are in a laptop, so which laptop you are having, it's from Dell, we can say, or we can say it's from Dell, HP, Lenovo, whatever you are having, just mention about the vendor name also, and then create a category for this kind of asset also. means it is of IT equipment because it's a hardware device. Laptop is a hardware device. So create a category for this one, that laptop belongs to the hardware device. And then just mention about also about the location, that from on which location this laptop is in placed. Because in this kind of model, we also require to protect your physical premise also. So just mention about the physical location where this laptop has been placed. Means this room number, whatever you are having, block number, whatever you are having. Just mention about the, we can say, this kind of information also in this Excel sheet. And then do mention about the owner, because every asset should have a kind of owner also. So try to assign the assets to all your employees. That's why we required also this role-based access model. It's called RBAC, access control list. So just try to assign all the assets a owner there, and then either these assets are in use, or they are active, or they are not active. Because might be possible companies having around 10 machines. So let's example about 10 laptops. So nine laptops are working, one is not working. So just mention about also this thing, that either they are active, they are in use or not. So if you want to maintain this kind of cost also, you can also mention the cost also in this asset list, that what cost this asset is having. And then also required the purchase date and date of expiry also. Why? Because it might be possible you are using a software which are going to expire, let's say, in the next month. So we need to update that software also. Because sir and ma'am, the software, we can say, they require the regular updations. The hardwares also required the updations. आप अपडेट नहीं करेंगे तो माइट बी पॉसिबल जो वल्नरेबिलिटीज होंगी, जो इश्यूज आएंगे, कोई ना कोई जो क्रिमिनल है, जो अटैकर है, जो हैकर है, वो उस लूपहोल का यूज करेगा और आपके सिस्टम को डैमेज करेगा. So we also required to know about the date of expiry also, especially in case of software, where we can say all this data can be mentioned. That at what time this software is going to expire, at what time we can say this is going to expire, so that we can renew different applications. I have seen an example of a domain name. मैंने एक डोमेन एग्जांपल देखा था, एक क्लाइंट के साथ में हुआ था. उनका डोमेन होना, जो उन्होंने वेबसाइट, जो उन्होंने पूरा एक बिजनेस स्टैंडअप किया था, और उन्होंने पूरा एक अपना तैयार किया था ऑनलाइन पोर्टल. उन्होंने डोमेन परचेस किया अपने उस बिजनेस के लिए, और जब वो डोमेन जो उन्होंने परचेस किया था, उस डोमेन की एक्सपायरी थी 1 साल बाद तक. लेट से उन्होंने डोमेन लिया abc.com, तो डोमेन परचेस किया abc.com करके, और उसकी जो एक्सपायरी थी वो 1 साल बाद की थी. अब क्या हुआ कि वो उसको करना भूल गए, उन्होंने उसको रिन्यू नहीं किया उस डोमेन को. तो यहाँ पे कोई और आगे डोमेन को लेता है तो फिर वो एक उनके लिए इशू बन सकता है. ऑल्दो रूल्स आर देयर, multiple rules are there, that where we can go for the kind of legal cases and you can get a domain back. But the main thing is what, that why we should go for this kind of system. Just update your this domains and also your applications. So that's why just do maintain this kind of date also for expiry, that when this thing is going to expire. So in this manner, what you can do, you can just prepare, we can say, a kind of Excel sheet for all your assets. Because our first step is what? Our first step is basically to identify all the critical assets. So the assets can be your, we can say, your devices, sorry, all your softwares, all your applications, and assets can also, we can say, your physical file also, and also we can say your employees also. Clear? So just maintain all these assets in this kind of Excel sheet, and you can maintain this record. Moving next. Now our second step. So assess your current security posture also. Now why we require to assess our system? Because we all are dealing with the kind of new standards, new frameworks. So we should know about the loopholes which are there into the current ecosystem. So now what we can do, we can go for the risk management services. Just evaluate your, we can say, kind of ideal ecosystem, what system you are having. Identify all your strengths, identify all your weaknesses which are there into your system. Identify all your policies which are there into your system. Now how we can do this kind of practice? So best thing is what? Doing a system audit. So sir and ma'am, if you are a system auditor, if you are an auditor, what you can do, you may take the audits of your existing employees, you may conduct the audits for your, we can say, existing businesses, clients, and tell them that these are the weaknesses which are there into their system. So in this manner, what you can do, you can also, we can say, leverage this kind of opportunity into this cyber security ecosystem. So identify all the strengths there, all the weaknesses which are there by using this risk management ecosystem. And for that, if you want to go for the we can say the advanced study, what you can do, you may go for this ISO 27005. ISO 27005. It's mainly for the risk management services. You can just identify all the, we can say, kind of risks which are there into any kind of organizations. So in this manner, what we can do, we can assess the current security posture which is there into any company, or we can say into any premises. Yeah, in this manner. So this example there, you can see there. So minimum risk can be there. You can see the example there. In the first, this one, we are having a minimum risk is there. And the second one, we are having this tolerable risk. Third is all about the moderate risk. And the fourth, we can say, is the extreme risk. So in this manner, what we can do, we can perform the risk management for the company or for the organizations. So for that, what we can do, we can identify all the risks which are there into the company or into their, we can say, premises. And not for the company or premises, it also applies for your existing firm also. So in this manner, you can do this kind of assessment. Now third comes the risk tolerance. Now why we required to go for this risk tolerance? Because we can say this, for making a complete ecosystem, we require we can say kind of a decisions from the companies also. We also require the investments also. Let's say if you want to protect your data, let's say if you want to protect your data, so we require some kind of DLP softwares. We require some kind of DLP we can say vendors also. We're going to purchase firewall, because if you want to protect your network against this kind of network threats, so we require the firewall to be there into our company or into our businesses. So that's why we can say, first of all, we should know about the what kind of business we are having, what kind of risks we are having. Let's say if our data got breached, or we can say if we got a kind of attacks, so what risk can be there. So just establish kind of this tolerance, and then identify about all this kind of we can say the risk level, and then you can go for this kind of decisions for implementing. And we require the, we can say this kind of the hardware device also. So we required to have also this investment also. So that's why we should know about this risk tolerance also. Moving next is all about the objectives. Now why we required to have this objectives there? Because we can say this cybersecurity objectives that aligns with your business goals, what we are trying to do, what we are trying to protect, to whom we are going to protect, all these things are required. So we can say, in short, we should know about that, how we can reduce the risk of the data breach, how we can reduce the risk of this incident, and how we can say enhance our employees also. Because we have seen multiple cases where the social engineering attacks are the most commonly used tactics to compromise the companies or to compromise the businesses. The phishing attacks, the vishing attacks, the attacks through SMS, these are the most commonly used tactics against the companies. Now why? Because the employees are the, we can say, the weakest loophole into the system. Humans are, we can say, in short, they are the loopholes for the every organizations. So they need to be trained on this kind of technology also, that what to click, when to click, how to click, how to verify, how to check, how to maintain this multi-factor authentications. So all this thing required a proper training. So that's why our objective should be there, that what we are trying to achieve, what data we are having to, we want to protect. We want to protect our network, we want to protect our data, we want to protect our information, we want to protect our these assets, whatever you want. Just, we can say, try to set your objectives there, that what exactly you want to do for your company or for your organizations. So it required a proper clear objectives for the this kind of protections against all this kind of cyber threats. And then we can say step 5 is all about the allocate resources and team building, because it's a teamwork and it requires a proper team. So team will be, we can say, not only from the IT persons, team will be from legal persons also, because we should know also about the legal compliance can be there. So team include the legal person, team from the compliance person, team from the management also, and from the multiple departments, you can say. So we can say we required a complete team of all the professionals, and they all are going to play important role in this kind of team building. And then we required a kind of proper budget for this kind of technology to be implemented in the cybersecurity system. So now the important slide. So now what controls can be used to prevent against this kind of threats or cyber threats, or we can say this kind of cyber attacks. So the most commonly used device, it is known as firewall. So now what companies can do, now what corporates can do, they can use a properly good firewall. They can check multiple vendors are there in market. So depending upon, we can say, their need, their requirement, they can just purchase this firewall or this WF or this UTM for the company itself. They can check their budget, what budget they are having for this kind of devices. So just they can purchase this kind of device. So for network based attacks, means we can say in short, the attacks coming from the internet, what they can do, they can use this firewall. So firewall is going to protect, we can say, their company network, their company, we can say, IT infrastructure. Then they can also use this proxy servers are also there. They can use these proxies also for the kind of protection. And the most important third one is DLP softwares or devices. So nowadays, we all know that data is the new oil. We all know that we are dealing with this Data Protection Act only. Our act name itself, Data Protection Act, means what? We need to protect our data. So what we can do, what companies can do, what corporates can do, they can use this DLP softwares, they can use this DLP hardwares also. Now the term itself, data loss prevention. So what these tools will do, they are going to protect your data leakage. We have seen also that our example about data breach, the tool known as Intellex, that majorly I will suggest that majorly all the small, you can say, industries are having this kind of data breach. So small companies also, and in fact the big companies also are suffering from this kind of data breach. So what they can do, they can also use this kind of DLP softwares, DLP devices for preventing the data loss prevention. So this DLP softwares, what they can do, they can implement this DLP into their premises, and they can protect their data from the leakage itself. Because this DLP softwares, what they are going to do, they are going to encrypt all your files, they are going to block all the channels from where the files can be leaked. So basically these applications are mainly used to protect your data from this kind of data breaches also. So we can say most commonly used device. And nowadays, as per my study, I have seen that multiple vendors are using this kind of devices into their IT ecosystem. So what you can do, you can say, as a professional, you can also suggest to your clients, you can approach to your clients also and tell them to use this kind of devices into their premises. So these devices are going to prevent all the, you can say, kind of data loss preventions and against all the cyber threats, mainly in case of, we can say, this the data breach and the remote hackings, where this hackers to control your machines also. So these devices can control all your data, and then they are going to prevent your data against this kind of data leakage. Next we can say it's all about the EDR tool and XDR tool. So now the name itself, EDR. Now basically this EDR stands for endpoint detection response, because in company multiple network, multiple laptops are there, multiple PCs are there. Now all the companies, they do have the, all the employees, they do have the mobile phone also. We are having this access point also, we are having this firewall also. So basically what the tools can do, so these tools are going to prevent all the, we can say, the devices which are there into your companies, means all your endpoints which are there into your network. Let's say in any company, they are having a network connection where they are having around 1,000 machines are there, and around multiple mobiles are also there. So what they can do, they can protect all this kind of system through this EDR preventive tools. So this EDR and XDR, they are mainly most commonly used tool to protect against the endpoints, means all your networks, all your laptops, all your desktops, and all the devices which are there into your network. So these tools can be used to prevent against this kind of threats. Next, logs and monitoring devices. Now you will find majorly like in all the standards and in all the compliance also. We have seen the guidelines from RBI, also from SEBI, also from IIDI, and from multiple, we can say, global standard. They all suggest that use some kind of tools which generate some logs. You will find majorly in all the standard. आप कोई भी चेक कर ले उठा के स्टैंडर्ड, आपको हर में मिलेगा, ये मिलेगा कि लॉग्स एंड मॉनिटरिंग डिवाइसेस, that every company should use some kind of tools which maintain some kind of logs. And in fact, you have also seen na, that on this 1st of April also that MCA announced about this audit trails. अभी MCA ने अनाउंस किया था ना कि जितने भी जो आपके सॉफ्टवेयर्स हैं, they should maintain the audit trails also. Similarly, for all we can say this kind of your devices, they should have kind of a system mechanism which generates some kind of logs. Because in case of we can say the fraud investigations, sorry, because in case of fraud investigations, or we can say in case of incident response, we can use these logs as a proof. So what the industries can do, they can also use multiple kind of tools, softwares which generate this kind of logs and which generate this kind of events into their premises. And it can also be used for the purpose of monitoring also. Means if you want to check about your employees, that what they are doing into premises, what website they are opening into premises, what kind of tools they are using in the premises. So we can also use this we can say tools for not only for logs management but also for the monitoring purpose. आप ये देख पाएंगे कि आपके एम्प्लॉयज क्या कर रहे हैं कंपनी में, वो क्या वर्क कर रहे हैं, जो उनको टास्क दिया गया है वो टास्क पे काम कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे हैं, कुछ और ही वो लोग ओपन करके बैठे हैं. So this kind of tools can be used for the kind of logs and monitoring purposes. Clear? Moving next, anti-malwares or antiviruses. It's the most commonly practiced. So basically what we do, basically we can say in all the laptops, and we can say whenever you purchase a laptop now, we find anti-malware is always there. So basically if you're using an anti-malware, try to update that anti-malware, because mostly what we do, mostly I will suggest that people don't update this kind of anti-malwares or antiviruses. Sir and ma'am, please always update your softwares as well as your anti-malwares or your antiviruses, because updation is the best defense against all the major cyber threats. सबसे बड़ा जो डिफेंस होता है वो होता है आपका अपडेशन. So always update your anti-malwares, antiviruses, and in fact also we can say your softwares, applications, whatever you are using into your premises. And do maintain this record also in your that asset management list also. That's why we have seen now that in our first step for this asset management, that we required to maintain the complete assets list. So in the asset, we also required to mention about the softwares also. आप जो भी सॉफ्टवेयर कर रहे हैं यूज, try to maintain the date of expiry also, when the software is going to expire and what is the license date, when we to renew this kind of information. Why? Because the software updation is the best defense against all the vulnerabilities which are there. Next, cloud solutions. Because nowadays we can say we are moving into this new, we can say kind of ecosystem where the clouds are going to play important role. So whatever vendor you're going to use, you're going to deploy your softwares on any type of cloud. It can be Microsoft, Amazon, Red Hat, or we can say any you can say type of vendor you are having, or if you're having any local vendor also, doesn't matter. But please try to check about the controls which are there. Please try to check about the risks which are there. If you are going for any third parties, I always suggest that please verify first that how the third parties are going to protect your data. आप अगर आपका डेटा किसी थर्ड पार्टी को दे रहे हैं, आप अगर आपका सॉफ्टवेयर या आपके एप्लीकेशंस कहीं भी होस्ट कर रहे हैं थर्ड पार्टीज पे, तो प्लीज मेक श्योर दैट दिस थर्ड पार्टीज आर हैविंग अ प्रॉपर काइंड ऑफ सिस्टम और नॉट. Because might be possible you are using all these softwares, you are having this firewall, you are having this proxies, DLPs, you are having all these things are there, but your data is hosted on the cloud vendors. So might be possible from that cloud vendor your data can be leaked. हमारा जो सिस्टम पे पूरा सिक्योर है, हमारा डेटा हमारे प्रीमाइसेस से पूरा सिक्योर है, बट जो हमने थर्ड पार्टी यूज किया था, क्लाउड वेंडर यूज किया था, वहां से लीकेज हो गया. So make sure that all your data is also protected in the cloud-based ecosystem also. So how you can do? You can perform the third-party risk assessment. Sir and ma'am, once again, a kind of a new, we can say, opportunity which can be leveraged by the professionals. Now, what you can do, you can also guide your clients on this kind of system. That now we are, as a we can say professional, you are going to take this third-party risk assessment. आप अगर चाहें तो आप इस वर्क को भी आप ऐड करें अपने एग्जिस्टिंग वर्क में, डूइंग अ थर्ड पार्टी रिस्क असेसमेंट. कि जहां जहां थर्ड पार्टीज कंपनी में आ रही हैं, जो जो थर्ड पार्टीज कंपनी में रिकॉर्ड लेके आ रही हैं, सो यू कैन गाइड टू योर क्लाइंट्स, यू कैन गिव योर कंसल्टिंग टू योर क्लाइंट्स ऑन दिस थर्ड पार्टी असेसमेंट्स. Just verify all these third parties, what they are trying to access into your system, and how they are protecting your data from your system. So just ask all this questionnaire from this third party also. Not only for the cloud solutions, it also includes, we can say, about the physical controls, and also we can say about the tech controls which are being used by the third parties also. You can frame multiple questions on this kind of third party risk assessment also. And nowadays so many companies, they do prefer this MDM software also. Now this basically this MDM stand for mobile device management softwares, because every employee nowadays is having at least 2 mobile phones. Every employee nowadays is having 2 SIM cards. Majorly, I will say mostly, they are having these 2 numbers. So that's why they are bringing their devices into the company or into the premises. And sir and ma'am, if employees are having this kind of facility that they can connect their mobile phone on your system, on your laptop, it can also be a big cyber risk. Because if they are using their own hotspot on the laptop, on the, we can say, desktop, or we can say on the office network, so they are coming with a multiple risk, multiple threats, because they are going to bypass your complete defense mechanism. They're going to bypass this firewall, they're going to bypass these proxies, and they're going to bypass your network based ecosystem. So that's why nowadays companies have this policy known as bring your own device policy. It is known as BYOD policy, that this thing should be there in the every company or organization, that what employees can do, what they can access, where they can connect their mobile phones, what data they can access, where they can use. All these things should be there, and it can be used properly. Let me give you an example of Asian Paint. We all know na Asian Paint, the number 1 industry in India in the paint industry, Asian Paint. The date was 24th of July, just last month. 24 जुलाई को एशियन पेंट में ये इंसिडेंट ऑकर हुआ, जहां पे उनके एम्प्लॉय ने ही चीजें बाहर लीक कर दी. एशियन पेंट जैसी कंपनी जो टॉप नोच है इंडिया का, उस कंपनी के अंदर वहां के एम्प्लॉय ने भी ये इशू किया कि वहां पर जो कंसर्न फाइल्स थी, कंसर्न कंपनी के सीक्रेट्स थे, क्लाइंट्स के इंफॉर्मेशन थी, वो उसने बाहर शेयर कर दी कंपनी के अलावा बाकी आईडीज के थ्रू. सो यहाँ पर बिकॉज उस कंपनी ने, एशियन पेंट ने ये सिस्टम मेंटेन किया था, दे डू हैव दिस काइंड ऑफ पॉलिसीज आर इन प्लेस, सो दे आइडेंटिफाई दैट दिस थिंग वाज ऑकर. बट in fact the company secrets, trade secrets, were already leaked by that employee. Why? Because the controls, I think, suggest that controls are not in properly place. So sir and ma'am, that's why we required basically this BYOD policy strictly to be there in all the companies, all the organizations. Because we never trust the employees. You don't know that the employees, those who are working into your company, you can say what they are doing, what data they are accessing, what files they are accessing. That's why we need to implement all this technology control plus policies into the company or premises. So now these are the controls which can be there. User endpoint devices should be there. Every, we can say, kind of person should have kind of privileged access rights. It should be given based on the job rules. Your source code should also be protected. Means if any company is using any kind of software or any kind of applications, means if they are running their software on, you can say, any kind of tool, so that the source code of that particular software or that tool should also be protected. आप जो भी सॉफ्टवेयर आप रन कर रहे हैं, आप जो भी एप्लीकेशंस रन कर रहे हैं, अगर कंपनी या बिजनेस का डेटा किसी सॉफ्टवेयर पर रन हो रहा है, तो मेक श्योर कि जो सॉफ्टवेयर है, वो जो सोर्स कोड है, वो भी आपका प्रोटेक्ट हो. So for that, what you can do, you may just go on Google and write this OWASP. It mainly stands for the Open Web Application Security, we can say, project. Just go and search for this OWASP 10, and you will find all the controls are there. Means what you can do, you may just check all the controls to this OWASP 10, and you can verify with your existing code. जो भी आपका भी कोड है जहां पे आपने पूरा डिप्लॉय किया है, तो व्हाट यू कैन डू, यू मे जस्ट क्रॉस चेक ऑल द सोर्स कोड देयर कि जो भी कोड बनाया गया है वो प्रॉपर्ली सेफ या है नहीं, वो आपका सिक्योर है या नहीं, इट शुड बी प्रॉपर्ली देयर। क्लियर? सो सोर्स कोड शुड आल्सो बी वेल प्रोटेक्टेड। बेसिकली ये उन बिजनेस के लिए होता है इंपॉर्टेंट जहां पर उनका जो कोर है, जो हार्ट है, कहीं ना कहीं सॉफ्टवेयर के आसपास है। मतलब बिजनेस की जो वैकेंसी काइंड ऑफ वैकेंसी है ना, जो सेंट्रलाइज पॉइंट है वो उनका सॉफ्टवेयर है। सो फॉर मेक श्योर द सोर्स कोड शुड आल्सो बी वेल प्रोटेक्टेड। क्लियर? Moving next, protection against the malwares. We have seen that we required a proper antivirus tool should be there, and that tool should, we can say, have a updated version. Please try to use a updated version for every kind of antivirus. Then your clocks should be well synchronized. ऐसा ना हो कि कुछ लैपटॉप्स पे टाइम बता रहा है अभी लेट्स से 8:27 एग्जांपल, और कुछ मशीन्स पे टाइम दिखा रहा है 8:05, 8:12, 8:15। नहीं, all the machines should have a proper type of clock signalizations so that our tools can maintain a proper logs and they can maintain a proper kind of security into your system. And in fact, we can say last year also CRT has given this concern also for this clock signalizations, that your clocks should be well synchronized with every machines also and with the network also. So you may refer this NTP there, NTP is there, you can refer this NTP timing and you can synchronize all your clocks, because it can protect against the multiple types of threats. And mainly in case of fraud investigations, these clocks are going to play important role, because during this investigations, what they do, they mainly check the timing there, that at what time this event was occurred, at what time this particular, we can say, incident was occur. So your clocks should be well synchronized. Clear? Please maintain this particular control into your premises. Moving next, network security and your network segregations. Sir and ma'am, your network should be well protected. Your network should have a well kind of segregations also. आपने हमने कोविड फेस किया 2020 में, सबने सुना कि कोरोना जो है वो खांसने से, छींकने से फैलता है। तो डिफेंस क्या बनाया गया कि आप डिस्टेंस मेंटेन करें। यू शुड हैव अ डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ सेग्रीगेशन शुड बी देयर। आप एक डिस्टेंस पे रहेंगे तो शायद आप विक्टिमाइज नहीं बनेंगे उस कोविड का, उस कोरोना से आपको कुछ इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा। सेम अप्लाइज फॉर योर नेटवर्क्स ऑल्सो। आप if you are using a common network, if you are using a network, so please maintain a network policy for the security as for the segregation. You should have a different networks. Means your let's say example, if you are using around 50 machines into your premises, so what you can do, you may just bifurcate all the machines into your this kind of segregation. Means these machines will be on different network, this machine will be on different networks, this machine will be on different networks. Why? Because let's say अगर हमारे मशीन पर अटैक्स होता भी है, हमारे अगर अटैक होता भी हमारे नेटवर्क के अंदर, सो जो अटैकर है, जो क्रिमिनल है, जो फ्रॉस्टर है, वो हमारा पूरा रिकॉर्ड एक्सेस नहीं कर पाएगा। दे कैन ओनली एक्सेस सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ डेटा। Why? Because we need to protect this kind of policies just to protect your entire network. So that's why what you can do, you may just create this virtual LAN 1, virtual LAN 2, virtual LAN 3. Now how to do this practice? So you can just contact your ISP. Just contact your ISP, contact your service provider and tell them that you want to implement this agent into your network. Because sir and ma'am, in case of ransomware attack, what they can do, they can spread from one machine to other machines. अगर रैंसमवेयर कभी गलती से हमारे नेटवर्क में आ भी जाता है तो पूरा जो नेटवर्क को डिस्टर्ब नहीं करेगा, इट कैन बी स्टॉप्ड ऑन द वन मशीन। सो जो आपने जो भी सिस्टम बनाया हुआ है नेटवर्क में, जहां पे आप बैकअप ले रहे हैं, जहां पे आपका मेन क्रिटिकल डेटा रखा हुआ है, इट शुड बी हाइड, इट शुड बी हिडन। सो व्हाट यू कैन डू, यू कैन जस्ट मेंटेन एंड इंप्लीमेंट दिस वर्चुअल नेटवर्क्स, virtual LANs, and you can segregate your networks so that you can say we can avoid this kind of malicious attacks or this kind of ransomware attacks entering into our premises. So this is very important one. Try to segregate your networks. The best defense I will suggest a best defense we can say against the ransomware is backup and network segregation. The best defense. Moving next, data masking. Now what, as we already know that this you can say act is already going to, you can say, pass, and this act is already passed, and we all know that how important our data is. So now what we can do, we just use this data masking method. Try to just mask all your data, all your personal data, all your client informations, all the critical informations, all your critical purchases, all your order. Just try to mask all this data. And then what you can do, you can also just implement this data leakage preventions. We already discussed in our previous slide that DLP are going to play important role, because you have masked your data and now you do have this data leakage prevention. So what we can do, we can prevent against this kind of data breach from the premises. And then always maintain backup of your data. Try to maintain your backups at least on 2 places. I will suggest it at least use one offline backups also. Don't rely on the cloud backups. If you are having this kind of a backup, or if you're doing your backup of data now, try to maintain at least backup on 2 places, at least 2 places, and one should be offline backup. Just purchase one kind of external disk or kind of devices and just try to maintain your backup on the offline devices also, because we have seen certain example where online backups can also be compromised. Some examples are there where online backups are also being compromised, because that company is having that online backup, but they don't have this network segregation, so the backup also got affected or infected. So that's why please do maintain your backup, at least one backup on the offline devices also. Yeah, so in this manner what we can do, you can just prevent use this controls for implementing all the technology into your premises. Moving next, the 6th step, developing the policies and procedures. So Saran ma'am, what we can do now as a professional, as a finance professional, you can also develop this kind of policies for any organizations. Just try to implement all these policies, and now what you can do, you can also approach to your clients that you are, we can say, as a professional, you can implement these policies into for any businesses, or we can say any companies also. So now what you can do, you can make all these policies. Now let me give you a brief also about the policies, why we require all these policies first, and how you can implement these policies for any companies or for any organizations. Clear? The first one, strong data in your policies. Now your data, we can say, it should be encrypted. So what you can do, you can use certain tools for data encryption. There are so many tools are available in market which can encrypt all your data. So if your data is encrypted now, so nobody can, we can say, access your data if your data, we can say, is encrypted. If they're going to access, they can't open your data, they can't see your data, because your data is masked, your data is already encrypted. So what you can do, you may make this policy for any organizations that your data is going to get encrypted by these encryption tools. So multiple tools are there for data encryption. Let me give an example also. One tool is there known as BitLocker. BitLocker is tool given by the company known as Microsoft itself. So you may use this tool known as BitLocker, and you can encrypt all your data. Or if you want to go for other tools, you may go for this TrueCrypt or VeraCrypt. So there are multiple tools are there in market. You may just check your budget and check your need, and you can identify your purpose, and you can just purchase this tool for data encryption. So just encrypt your data, because data encryption is going to protect your data, we can say, against this kind of breach also. अगर आपका डेटा अगर ब्रीच हो भी जाता है, तो वो जो क्रिमिनल है, फ्रॉस्टर है, उसके पास जो डेटा होगा वो डेटा को ओपन नहीं कर पाएगा, because your data is encrypted and you have the private key, so it can't be open and access. Okay? Moving next, policies for the third party suppliers. So as we discussed now also in our last slide, that please do maintain the policies for third parties also. There are so many examples where massive data breach will occur also from the third parties, especially in case of domain or this cloud hostings. So please make sure that whatever third parties you are using into your premises, they are protecting your data, they are following all these guidelines regarding cyber security. So I will suggest every business or every corporate, they should verify first of all about all the third parties. So now what they can do, they can maintain a complete list here. Just maintain a complete list here list of all the third-party suppliers. Just try to maintain once again the same list. Now we have seen the Excel format. Just mention the same list that these are the third-party suppliers and they are coming into my premises. So start with the IT first. Maintain the list of all the IT services which the company is using from the third parties. Cloud hosting, domain hosting, backup, and all these things. Machines, vendor, recovery, maintenance. Just maintain the list of all the third-party suppliers, those who are entering into your premises. And then just try to maintain the policies for these third-party suppliers, because the third-party suppliers can also we can say leak your data. So make sure that your policy should have the controls there, and the third-party suppliers are protecting your data as well. As third, it's all about the policy for data breach prevention. So we already covered that you can use this encryption, data masking, DLP softwares, EDR softwares, devices, just for this data breach prevention policies. Next, password protection policies. Now passwords are the most important crucial element for, you can say, every kind of software or applications, and including your emails also. Sir and ma'am, trust me, there are so many websites where your passwords are also being sold at a very minimum cost. Sorry. So please make sure that your company, your business should have policy for this password protection controls. All your password should have a strong, we can say, kind of digit, minimum 12 we can say kind of should be there, and it should have multiple, we can say, symbols, and all these things should be there. And always change your passwords, we can say, in every 3 or 6 months, or especially in case of this database notifications, please change your passwords as soon as possible. So please try to maintain this policy for other protections. Otherwise the passwords, if passwords are leaked, so anyone can access all your accounts, they can access your credentials, they can access your client information, they can do whatever they want. And once again, please don't save your passwords into your web browser. We used to demonstrate all these things during our training known as FAFAD. Our board DAB is also having one course known as FAFAD. So it's to demonstrate all these things, how to these attackers do these tactics there. Okay, so right now actually we have only 90 minutes for this session, so I'm not giving you a demonstration for this one. Otherwise your passwords can also be, we can say, gather from your web browser also. So please don't save any passwords into your web browser, and please maintain this policy in your clients, also for your clients also, and also for your offices, or also we can say for your company, or also for your businesses. So please do maintain this policy on your password protections. Moving next, this network security. So we discussed that please do maintain this policy for security or network, because might be possible the criminal or attacker, they are coming from the different nodes from different countries, or might be possible they are coming from you can say also from cross borders. So please do maintain this policy also into your organizations, that all your network will get protected against this kind of network we can say kind of threats also. Clear? And plus, please do maintain this network segregation. If you are not having this particular policy, I would suggest please do implement this policy for network segregation, because in case of ransomware attack, first of all they will come into only one machine, and from one machine they'll spread from one to another, and they are going to, we can say, completely lock your entire, we can say, your IT network ecosystem. So please do maintain this policy for network segregations. Next is all about the risk assessment. So we already seen our step 2 that please do perform this risk assessment, that what risk we are having. You can say just identify all the, we can say, vulnerabilities, all the threats there, and what these threats and vulnerabilities can get a kind of a big risk of the corporates. Try to just, we can say, label all the risks also there. Clear? So try to maintain this risk assessment policies also into your organizations. Next is all about the social media usage policy. Please make sure that whatever you are posting on social media from behalf of company, please make sure that it should be verified first. If your employees are posting anything about your company on social media, please make a type of policy that what they can post, what they can't post. Sometimes we see multiple examples that sometimes the employees now, if they're not getting proper increments, salary increment or promotions, So what they do, they used to post about the negative comments about the company. आपने इंक्रीमेंट नहीं दिया, आपने हायर किया आर्टिकल्स को, इंटर्न्स को, प्रमोशन नहीं दिया, आपने पे स्केल नहीं बढ़ाया, तो माइट बी पॉसिबल जो आपके सीक्रेट्स हैं, आपके ट्रेड सीक्रेट्स है, क्लाइंट के सीक्रेट्स है, जो भी आपकी इन्फॉर्मेशन है, लेट्स से अबाउट जीएसटी इन्फॉर्मेशन, वट एवर यू आर हैविंग, so they can post on social media. So please do maintain also about these policies, that what we can say things to be posted on the social media, and when to use this social media, and I can say how to use this social media also. Just try to maintain this policy. This policy is also going to cover about this MFAs also, this multi-factor authentications also on the accounts of social media. Because in past we have seen one example where we can say a big company, it was breached, and we can say the employee has been compromised and all the trade secrets were got leaked also on the social media. So please do maintain this policy for the social media usage, and especially also for your employees. Try to maintain one NDAs. We all know NDA na? Try to maintain the NDAs, and in NDA please do maintain also about this social media usage policy. Otherwise you ever don't know that what your employee is going to post on social media, what negative comments they're going to do on the social media, and directly the negative comments is going to impact on the company or on the businesses. उनका एक नेगेटिव कमेंट आपकी कंपनी के लिए कहीं ना कहीं नुकसानदायक है. एक नेगेटिव कमेंट्स अबाउट द कंपनी, अबाउट वी कैन से द क्लाइंट, वी कैन से इज हार्मफुल फॉर द कंपनी बिजनेस इटसेल्फ. So that's why do maintain this policy. Moving next is all about the VAPT policies. Now what is VAPT? So basically stand for the vulnerability assessment pen testing. Please do perform this VAPT regularly, we can say on the half yearly basis. Sometimes the company they used to do on the annual basis, sometimes they use on the half yearly basis, and sometimes they also do on the quarterly basis. Now as per the CRT, as per some guidelines given by the government also, it should be from CRT in panel. So if you want to go for CRT in panel, you may go for the CRT in panel auditors. Otherwise you can also call to, you can say, any kind of IT experts, and they are going to do this VAPT also. Means just check about the existing IT ecosystem what you are having. So these VAPT experts, they're going to check all your networks, all your software, all your websites and applications, and they can identify all the vulnerabilities and loophole, and then we can just make all the controls there, and we can prevent all this kind of we can say these vulnerabilities also to these VAPT programs. So please do maintain this program also for the companies or for the organizations. Moving next, backup policies. So as we have discussed now, please to maintain the backups of your data, because in case of ransomware, the backups are going to play the important role. So backups should be on your, we can say, offline data, offline we can say storage system, where your backups can be well maintained. So if you are having a backup on the cloud, you can also plan the backups also on the offline storage, because sometimes we have seen that the cloud backups are also being compromised. Clear? Then we also seen this anti-malwares we already covered. Then software updations we have discussed. Please do update all your software applications, all your softwares also. So softwares not only we can say software, we can say your tele software or ERP software. In fact, your MS Word, Office, your operating system, whatever softwares you are using, please do update them on the regular basis. Because every time whenever this kind of vulnerabilities occur na, what companies do, they have to provide the update version. जब भी कोई नया loophole आता है, नया vulnerability आता है, नया CV आता है ना, so what the company used to do, they used to leak the update version. And what we do, we just click on this remind me later. So please try to avoid this kind of practice, and please regularly update your software itself. You can maintain a policy there about software updations. Yes, we do have this policy, and we do update the software on the regular basis. Moving next, try to maintain this also for these USB devices, pen drives. Sir and ma'am, try to avoid using pen drives into your premises, into your companies, into your corporates. Although most of the companies they have the policy, but still I have seen that multiple examples where still the people are using pen drive into the premises. Try to avoid using these USB devices or these pen drives, because in 90% of cases the malware used to come from this pen drive itself. So maintain this policy, or just block your USB ports so that no one can attach any USB device into your company or into your premises. Then next, do provide this kind of trainings also to your employees. because the human error is the biggest error, the human risk is the biggest risk. So please train your employees regularly on this kind of cyber awareness, on this cyber hygiene, because we have seen now about three pillars there: people, process, and technology. So people means what? Your employees should be well aware about all the kind of cyber threats, and they should know about when to use, how to use, and we can say what to use. And not only your employees, including your board members also, including your directors, CTO, CFO, all should be trained on this kind of cyber awareness, because the cyber risks are, we can say, been emerging. And sir and ma'am, now we are moving into this AI era, the era of artificial intelligence. So that's why we require to properly train our employees also on this kind of threats coming from the AI also. Next, we can say it's all about your Wi-Fi usage. Same thing for the network segregations, plus also for remote sharing. Usually, I've seen multiple cases that most of us, what we do, we use either this software known as AnyDesk or TeamViewer. Sir and ma'am, if you are using the software like AnyDesk or TeamViewer or any other software like remote sharing, please make sure that you are using in proper manner, because AnyDesk or this software known as TeamViewer, they are also the big threat for any companies. I will suggest try to avoid using this AnyDesk or TeamViewer softwares. You can use a VPN software, virtual private network softwares. If you want to share anything remotely, try to use VPN softwares. I will suggest don't use this AnyDesk or a TeamViewer, because whenever we use this TeamViewer AnyDesk now, what they do, they has to open your ports. Sometimes they has to open your port, means जब भी आप अगर यूज कर रहे हैं तो वो आपकी जो मशीन का जो पोर्ट होता है उसे ओपन करेगा, एंड देन दे कैन एक्सेस ऑल योर डेटा. यू डोंट नो कि आपने जो उसको ओपन किया है, उस सॉफ्टवेयर को ओपन किया है AnyDesk TeamViewer को, तो माइट बी पॉसिबल कि उस वाले पोर्ट से कोई और भी अंदर आ जाए. A virtual, can say, user can also access your machines. आपको नहीं पता कि आपने जब एक्सेस किसी को दिया है उस TeamViewer पे, तो उस मशीन पे कोई और भी एक्सेस करके आपकी मशीन पे आ चुका होता है. So that's why try to avoid giving this kind of remote sharing on this TeamViewer or AnyDesk. You can use this VPN software. Then the next is about this BYOD policies. We already covered that do maintain this policy for the device also, that what employees can access their devices if they are coming their mobile phone, their tablets, with their laptops. So what they can access, how they can access, they can implement through this BYOD policies. Next is all about the HR policies, very important one, because HR, you can say, are going to also play the important role in this cyber ecosystem, because HR are the person who are going to hire the employees. So your HR should be also well trained on this kind of safety mechanisms. Make sure that your HR is performing the background, you can say, verification of employee also. So what you can do, you can also make this policy for the HR, you can say this management system, that किसी को अगर हायर किया है तो उसका बैकग्राउंड वेरीफाई करो, कहाँ से आ रहा है, किस कंपनी से आ रहा है, उसने लास्ट जॉब क्यों छोड़ा था, why he or she has left his past job, where she was working, where he was working. So just verify all these things before going for the kind of hiring purpose, and tell them that this is our NDA, and in our NDA all these clauses are there, what they can use, where they can use, and what they can use, and what they can do into the company premises. So please do maintain this policy for the HR also. Moving next is all about the email safety policies, because the email are the most, you can say, important, we can say, kind of system which is mainly used by all the companies. So that's why please do maintain the email safety policies also into your organizations, and specifically this SPF and this DKIM, sender policy framework, and this DKIM. Please check that if your company is having this kind of email safety, so they should also have this SPF and DKIM enabled. Please make sure that whatever system you are having, if you are using any email system, if you are using any third-party email system, please make sure that your system should have this DKIM and this SPF, because if you don't have this SPF or DKIM, someone can spoof your domains, someone can spoof your emails, and someone can also, we can say, change your system also. So that's why please do implement this SPF and this DKIM, and there is one more thing known as DMARC. please do maintain all these things into the email security, because otherwise your email can be compromised, and this phishing mails, spear phishing mail, all can be performed if the policy is not be there on the place. So please do implement this email safety also into your organizations. So now moving next on our step 7, it is all about the monitor and analyze. So as already discussed now, please do maintain some kind of mechanism that we are having a tool or a software which is going to record all the kind of activities, all the kind of logs into the system. Because in case of any kind of incident, any kind of data breach, we should analyze that what were the loopholes from where the person has entered and at what time this was occur. So that's why please do maintain this kind of tools also in the organizations for logging and monitoring. Clear? There are so many tools are there in market where you can just install this tool into your networks, into your machines, and then they are going to can say collect all this data, all these logs, all these events, and they're also going to monitor all the events into your network itself. So please do maintain such tools, and please do implement such tools also into your company or into your office premises. So Saran ma'am, finally it's a process. Finally it's a process. So it also required the regular review and update. So we can say our last step is all about the regular updations and regular review. So as a finance professional, I will suggest you that please what you can do now, you can just try to implement all these steps for any company, for any organizations. You can just guide them on these steps and tell them that it is a process, it requires a regular intervals, it required to check all the updates on the regular basis. So you can say on the half yearly basis, on quarterly basis, whatever you want on the annual basis, you can just review all the policies, you can review all the controls, whatever the controls, whatever policies the companies are having. So you can say with the help of this system audits, what you can do, you can just check all these policies, you can review all the controls, you can review all the tech controls, and then you can also guide to your, we can say the clients, or any case consulting, we can say firms or corporates or any businesses, because it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process, and it required the, we can say, review and updations. So in short, we can say the complete ecosystem, it requires the proper updation and proper review. So we can say as the auditor, you can also review all the system, you can perform the risk assessment, you can perform the policy reviewing, and you can perform all the kind of controls into the system also. Clear? So please remember that these are 3 main pillars which are mainly required for implementing the complete cyber system into any kinds of company or into any businesses, or we can say for any organizations. So people, process, technology, they all should be used in the proper manner, so that we can say we can maintain a proper cyber security mechanism for any company or any organizations. And please do remember, it is not about the penalties as per the Indian Protection Act. It is not about the penalties, it's not about the fines. If you are offering if you can say the businesses are using this kind of tactics, so we can say what they're getting, they are getting multiple, we can say, benefit, we can say against this financial losses, benefit of the business continuity. आप सोचिए कि अगर मान लो आपका जो टूल है, आपका सॉफ्टवेयर है, अगर वो 2 घंटे काम करना बंद कर देगा, तो कितना आपको लॉस होगा. Let's say if any e-commerce company is there and they are doing an e-commerce business, is they are doing all this business on the online mode, and let's say 2 घंटे के लिए जो है वेबसाइट डाउन हो जाता है. Think about the loss there. So that's why they offer multiple benefits. It also offer us the business continuity. Plus it also, we can say, offer us the proper reputation and trust. Your clients are going to trust on you. Your clients are going to have a trust on you. And we are also going to maintain the compliance because we are implementing all these things. And we are also going to get a proper advantage because it's a huge market. And we have also seen that the hackers and criminals, they are, we can say, also working for the industries just to damage the rivalries, just to damage their competitions. And trust me, I have seen many examples where company, they do hire this kind of hackers or criminal just to damage their rivalry reputations or that damage software applications. So we can say we are going to get this kind of advantage also, and we are also going to get the customer confidence, and we can say our proper, we can say IPR can be protected, our supply chain we can protect it, and we can also avoid the kind of operational disruptions because we are having a proper controls and policies in place. Okay? And it also help us in making more innovations because it's a new era, and the new ecosystem is all about technology. New ecosystem is all about data. So we can say if we are going to get more proper innovations with this data also, because the future world is all about the blockchain and all this Web 3.0 and this data science, machine learning, all these things are being coming on the, we can say, this ecosystem. So we are going to get a better advantage on this support also, and it's a long term, you can say, kind of priorities. So thank you once again, thank you all for listening me from last 90 minutes. Thank you. So any questions, query, please let me know. So thank you sir. Now I can take questions
Thank
here.
you so much, Pranay sir. Thank you so much. It was a very insightful session for all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
Now there is one question of the participant,
please.
like what is the difference between antivirus and anti-malware?
Anti-malwares. Sir, basically, usually we call the terms antivirus and the term is anti-malware. Sir, anti-malware is a broad term. Malware is a broad term. Malware means what, sir? We can say malware covers the virus, worms, we can say Trojan horse is there, trapdoor is there. We can say it's a very big family, sir. So we can say anti-malware means what? It is covering all the threats. Virus, we can say worm, Trojans, trapdoor. While antivirus what? Means only for the viruses. Although nowadays company are having this only this anti-malware. Usually they used to sell the products, sir. It's about the selling products with the different names. Otherwise they are having the main signatures also. So I will say they go for, I always say for this anti-malware. Try to purchase this anti-malware and just try to check all also about the features about the anti-malware, that what kind of threats they are going to prevent. So if you're planning to buy any anti-malware, if you're planning for any kind of antivirus, please check about the features first, what features they are offering. They are offering for this virus, Trojan, trapdoor, and all the kind of a new malicious code which are entering the system. So I will say go for this anti-malware only.
I hope your answer has solved the query of the participant. And then there is one more question, like sometimes the apps and the sites
applications also
ask permission about dominant position.
Exactly.
Like for example, Google says allow us, else we won't allow for Android and something. So
yeah.
So what we have to do in that case?
Sir, basically, yes. Sir, let me give you the practical for this one. Sir, let's say if you want to check about any kind of applications, let's say if you're using any kind of Android app, sir, okay. So now what you can do, sir, the good tool, so basically this tool is there for the EU countries, means from the European countries, and the tool is known as Exodus Privacy. So before going, I will suggest that if you're going to install any kind of applications into your mobile phone, what you can do, you may just check about the application there. So what you can do, just go on Google and write this Exodus Privacy. You will find this domain is there. Let me post this also in our chat so they can also download this one. Yeah. So now what you can do, just download, just open this website there, and now just click on this one, check an application. This is a good tool for performing the Android app audit. Means you can say if you want to do audit for any application, you will open this tool, and now just write the name of tool there, that app there. Let's say if you want to go for any app, let's say, sir, what app we are going to test. Just write the name of application there. Sir, you can check any sir application there. Tata Sky, sir. Let me search for this one. Let's say one app is there known as Tata Sky. Clear? So now if you want to download this app known as Tata Sky, so just go and write the app there. You will find all the app name which are having the same name like Tata Sky. So let's say this is the app. Okay, this one is there. Tata Sky is there. Tata Play is there. So just click on this one. So you will find now that this Tata Play is the application. Basically, if this app is going to, we can say, if you're going to download the app now, this app required this certain permissions. You can see there. So if you're going to use this app known as Tata Play, it required your course location. It also required Wi-Fi state. It also required your camera to be accessed. It also required, you can say, your they're going to also read your phone state. They're also going to read your storage. They're also going to record your audios also. You can see there. Means in short, we can say if you want to, we can say, check about any application, that what kind of data they are going to access into your phone before downloading. So what you can do, just go on this platform, write the name of application there and search for it, that what kind of data they are going to, we can say, access from your mobile phone. Clear? Although Tata is a very big brand and it's a trustworthy brand, so they will not, we can say, breach your data, but we can say so many apps are also there, and nowadays so many apps are also providing loan also, sir. It's called loan app fraud. Fraud done by these loan applications. Clear? So I will suggest to all the participants, please always check all the applications there before we can say loading in your mobile phones. So you may use this kind of platforms for testing all the applications before downloading this one. So you may use this one. And now the question comes for this kind of they require this permission now. Sir, basically for what you can do, you may go for privacy controls. You may just use a kind of a browsers, those are in privacy controls into system. So for I will suggest go for this browser known as Brave browser. You can see, sir, right now I'm using this browser known as Brave browser. So till date it is blocked around 50,000 trackers in my machine. So I will suggest, if you're using any kind of, if you're browsing any website, please try to browse using this kind of browser known as brave.com. A disclaimer is here, okay? One disclaimer. I'm just giving you the name of tools which I'm using right now, okay? So you may use this browser, and this browser will going to block all the trackers, this third-party trackers, third-party ads coming into your machine. So we can say we can minimize our footprints, whatever we are sharing online on these platforms. So you may use this kind of browser, and then you can avoid this kind of tracking, multiple sources. So you may use this one. And also it is based on the blockchain technology. This Brave browser, basically it is based on the blockchain technology. It is based on the blockchain project. That's why they are not going to sell your data. They're going to block your data from the multiple this third-party trackers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for this solution also. So I guess there are no other questions. So I guess that sums up the discussions for today's topic, and it was a very thorough discussion.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the TAB and Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I would like to propose a formal vote of thanks for sharing your valuable time and experience to us. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Manish, can I leave the? Okay.
Recording stopped.
Okay, fine.